Cigars were smoking as the man was through. We stood on the cliffs, oh, we watched the ships slowly sinking to the rendezvous. They signed a treaty and our homes were taken. Loved ones forsaken, they didn't give one damn. Try to raise a family and not the enemy. What went down on the plains of Abraham? Acadian Driftwood, gypsy tailwind, call my home, land of snow. Canadian cold front, what a way to ride, oh, what a way to go. Then some returned to the motherland. The high command had them cast away, and some stayed on to finish what they started. They never parted, they just were that way. We had kin living south of the border. They're a little older and they've been around. They wrote in a letter, life is a whole lot better. So pack up your things, children, and come on down. The Acadian Driftwood, gypsy tailwind, call my home, land of snow. Indian cold front, what a way to ride, oh, what a way to go. When the day became a friend, my clothes were wet and I was drenched to the bone. Been out ice fishing, too much repetition makes a man wanna leave the only home his own. Sailed up on the docks heading for St. Pierre. Nothing to declare, all we had was gone. Oh, down along the coast, yeah, what hurt the most was the people that said we better keep moving on. Acadian Driftwood, gypsy tailwind, call my home, land of snow. Canadian cold front, what a way to ride, oh, what a way to go. Everlasting summer filled with ill content. This government had us walking in chains. This ain't my turf, oh, this ain't my season. Can't think of one good reason to remain. Worked up in the Shakespeare sound in New Orleans. It was evergreen up until the flood. You can call it a no man's land where you're going. Set my compass north North, I got winter in my blood. Acadian Driftwood, gypsy tailwind. Oh, my home, the land of snow. Canadian cold front moving in. What a way to ride, oh, what a way to go. Say to Acadian, je demande de paix. La neige Acadian, fait de l'âme au soleil. Je vis Acadian, tiddle-lam, tiddle-lam, tiddle-lam. Je vis Acadian, tiddle-lam, tiddle-lam, tiddle-lam. Je vis Acadian, tiddle-lam, tiddle-lam, tiddle-lam. Tiddle-lam, tiddle-lam, tiddle-lam. I'm sitting here in the boring room. It's just another rainy, sunny afternoon. I'm wasting my time, I got nothing to do. I'm hanging around, I'm waiting for you, but nothing ever happens. And I wonder, driving around in my car, I'm driving too fast, I'm driving too far. I like to change my point of view. I feel so lonely, I'm waiting for you, but nothing ever happens. And I wonder how, I wonder why. Yesterday you told me about the blue, blue sky, and all that I can see is just a yellow lemon tree. I'm turning my head up and down, turn it around, and all that I can see is just a yellow lemon tree. Now, da da dee da da dee da da, da da dee da da dee da da, da dee da da. Da da dee da da da, da da dee da da dee da da, da dee da da. I'm sitting here, I miss the pie. I'd like to go out and take a shower, but there's a heavy cloud inside my head. I feel so tired, put myself to bed while nothing ever happens. And I wonder Isolation is not good for me. Isolation, I don't want to sit on the lemon tree. I'm stepping around in the desert of joy. Baby, anyhow, I get another toy and everything around. And I wonder how, I wonder why. Yesterday you told me about the blue, blue sky, and all that I can see is just a yellow lemon tree. I'm turning my head up and down, turning, I'm turning around, and all that I can see, and all that I can see, and all that I can see is just a yellow lemon tree. I fucked that up, didn't I? It's okay, the lemon tree is fucked up itself anyway. I give thee all, I can no more, the poor, the affluent, my heart and loot are all the store that I can give to thee. A lute whose gentle song reveals the soul of love and better for a heart that feels much more than lute can tell. No love and song may fail, alas, to keep life's clouds away. At least we'll make them lighter past our human if they stay. And even if care at moments flings a discord o'er life's happy struggle, oh, let love but gently touch the strings to alone be sweet again. Oh, let love but gently touch the strings to alone be sweet again. Greetings, friends. How you doing? The guitar is sounding grand. Just my own delivery is a bit fucked up. I forgot to put because I couldn't read all the lyrics on one page, so I forgot to adjust the other page to split the screen with the lyrics. So sorry for that sort of break, and it sort of ruined the tempo of the song. Really, my voice didn't do it justice, which is Lemon Tree. Amazing. I was thinking about this song and just the context of everything, and how it's so informative if we look at it in a certain way. And I've already pointed out, you can just, it didn't apply to me, so I didn't know anything about it at the time. I just recognized the song as being a very good song, and it sort of stayed with me. But it was something that was analysed in it was common practice to analyse the song in English class or whatever, and just sort of talk about it in relation to depression and associated matters. But the fact that it was put there in the center is very similar. In the center, right? So you're turning around in the center, the lemon tree. But what's the lemon? The lemon is the sun, right? So there's a tree has separated from the lemon. Something is turning around. So now it sort of makes sense if we think of all of this in terms of a greater structured thing. Everything we're learning, we're meant to learn. Right? So there's a beginning and a middle and an ending to everything. The greater story is pre-written. Then, as I look upon it, then we can understand. I can certainly understand a lot better why a song like "Lemon Tree" of all songs would be so prominent in terms of the analysis within classrooms throughout the world. It's not just apparently a local thing. So that's very interesting. I'll go through the lyrics in a little bit. I'll say how you doing. When I pressed go live, right, on the Google Hangouts, it was 22:22, and on the 22nd of the 7th, 2019, whatever that means. If you look in my Hangout description, man, I hold this earth is 421 years. That's the way the story is told. 421 years old, post destruction of Aristarchus, post a tree being separated from the tree, right? So this is in one sense, and in many other senses as well. This is why Jesus died at 33. This is why 33 is such a significant or a symbolic number. So once again, it's within the symbol and the understanding of the greater context of the story that the symbol is based on, that a lot of things can make more sense. And I think everything was always made to make sense, you know. No matter what your sort of temporary feelings are on things which are prone to change, right? Everything is well, how are you going to describe everything? What context do you have? What backdrop do you have? What normal do you have to compare anything to? But yeah, these are different questions. I'll touch on a few topics tonight. In general, I don't prepare anything at all. It's just a man talking, right? But we'll see where that goes. One thing I will be talking about is the ether. They killed ether, friends, and suddenly all this nonsense. They killed the ether, friends, and all this nonsense stems. And purposefully, again, we're always meant to find out that Einstein was a tranny, that Einstein was married to a butch man in drag, that Einstein faked his death. The young Einstein is a different character than the older Einstein is presented to us. Einstein has no epitaph. He's no tombstone. His brain is gone. His brain was cut into 240 pieces. If you don't believe me, where you been? I mean, you know what are you going to do? Just Google it yourself. Again, all this information, nonsense. It's all nonsense. But if we don't read it, if we just say, okay, this is a good example. If you just say it's all NASA stuff is nonsense, the moon landing's nonsense. So I'm not going to look at it. I just already know from what I looked into, it's all nonsense. Well, you're losing out there, because whoever wrote it, right? Whoever wrote the whole script, hidden hand, by the way, the HH, yeah, I mean, they've encoded so much within the different layers. So if you're going to throw it out, you're throwing out the bathwater with the baby. You don't want to do that, do you? It's up to you, right? Whatever, who's you? Yeah. So that's the point with all of this sort of stuff. If we want to sort of analyze it, and we have to be in that sort of mindset, you know. So I'm not even sure. I went to chat in a second. It doesn't even matter how many people are. It really doesn't. What to me anyway anymore. As I was from the very start, it's all about getting the truth, right? So we have a platform to sort of share the truth. I was thinking today as I was walking around. What if the internet went down? What if everything that you ever wrote or ever recorded via internet here or via online in some electronic form went out? Where would that leave you as an individual? What sort of hole would it make in your life? And I'm sure the same answer applies to all of us. A big hole, you know, we've become so reliant in one sense. But yeah, now all of this stuff is given to us. This whole story, this whole script is playing out. So within the obvious fakery, I mean, as flat earthers, which is, so we want to be, that's the term given to us as well. we want the truth, we want the whole truth, right? So if we wait to look for the whole truth and we sort of redefine or start to assemble the pieces, the disparate, that's a good, yeah, reassemble the disparate pieces of Earth, E, capital E, A-R-T-H, but then we see that everything is connected. So yeah, it's all part of a greater script. If you're stuck on a spinning ball, or if you're on the fence, well, go away yourself, right? Go away and satisfy yourself that this is or isn't the situation. And anything I ever talk about, I brush over these things. I know there's a few hangouts on at the minute. And one of the talking points from Spurs Chemo, he knows, we know. I was talking about the mirrored water there about 3 or 4 years ago. The avatar that I had before my dodo avatar was a sunset where it was clear that you were dealing with a mirrored layer. So when we understand water on a flat plane with compression and how, obviously back to how our eyes work, when we understand how it sets itself up over distance, over compression, over lighting conditions, over water conditions, this mirror layer is always and ever present everywhere. Everywhere you're looking over water, this mirror layer is present. And there's no contrast like sunrise or sunset. Then this mirror layer reflects the clouds behind. And it's beyond a certain point. Probably at eye level, it's close to 3 miles. This is where they have co-opted the truth and transformed it into, well, the polar opposite, right? So rather than look on these people as enemies, and you have no enemies. If you have an enemy, then you have an enemy within yourself. I mean, there's something about yourself that you haven't quite dealt with, I reckon. I think that's ultimately the idea. Everyone who harms does so, well, first of all, knowingly, but yeah, they know the distinction, and this is the ultimate point. There's a greater story in play here, and Flat Earth allowed us to sort of step into that theater. Very much more real theater than the one we left behind, right? And I might talk about that later on. The S word. What is the S word? To take the sword from the stone. I've mentioned it loads of times. People know the answer already. So, but it keeps coming up, and I was just looking in a hangout I hadn't seen before, but the name of it was Sol Excalibur, and I was going, fucking hell. And unfortunately, he was talking about, it seems like a pretty interesting conversation, but I recognized that they had everything within the wrong context. They were like, they recognized the tyranny and the lies stemming from old government sort of so-called authority. They don't question history as presented. They don't question the validity of Marx, for instance. He was another, I'm trying to compare, who would you compare Marx to in a modern day sense? Well, it turns out, I have to delve into my memory now. I don't want to get diverted in that sense, but it turns out he's not at all who we think he was. Another Einstein character. Once we get to the separate layers, the next layer, I think it turns out he's married to a Jew, or he's close relationships, family relations to Jews. So again, I think this is written into the script. These people, and I think the Phoenix actually was the name of their hangout. So I just hung around briefly, but I realized that they have the wrong context regarding everything. So no matter how in-depth their conversations are, their thoughts, if you have the wrong context, you'll always be off the mark. Definitely, you have to be, right. Hand in hand with a heliocentric model goes evolution, right? Atheism. Can you think, if you can, you count on one hand the number of baller antagonists who are consistent on the scene, who claim to be anything but atheists. Who was the one that got caught out? One of them was caught out when I just in one of these chats, because all chats are the same. It's just some fucking people talking, right? That's all it is, anywhere ever. One of these chats, I think it was, I don't want to wrong him now, but it was somebody, I think it might have been Dean, someone called Stingray, this CGI sort of expert, the perfect man for the job. So any sort of dispute or any discrepancy you spot in any image represented, give it to me and I'll do my expert analysis. I have all of this experience behind me, so yeah, you can trust me on that. I've labeled him one of the more insidious ones, alongside Druss is another. Druss the legend. They're insidious. They pretend to be sort of open to persuasion. And if you just present enough evidence, give us your time, and if you present something convincing, or if you make a convincing point, yeah, maybe I can change my mind. You fall for it the first few times, but then you realize, well, yeah, nothing's ever going to change their mind because their script is fixed. They have talking points within the character. There's leeway allowed, but they cannot go beyond certain points. There would be no judgment on the man. They seem like decent people, or they could be decent people. But for me to recognize that I'm dealing with characters playing a role, what am I going to do there? Just say it, right? Like I can say, like I've said about pretty much everybody. I said it recently. Is there any genuine? Yes, there are genuine people in Flat Earth Inquiry. Not everyone is controlled, but all of the top people are controlled. The script is already written. When you enter this scene, and all of these people are producing fantastic videos. This is called a bait technique. So it's to get you hooked, right? Something to attract you to, well, we can say your doom. It's not your doom, right? It's maybe your rebirth is probably closer to it, but there is a mechanism in play, and there are teams of people controlling the arena. And well, why not? Everything else is controlled. It all comes back to our basic questions as to where the fuck exactly do we find ourselves, knowing that we don't find ourselves where we thought we found ourselves, right? So I opened up before with, but awareness of this is vital, and it's all different cliques as well. And you'll find that cliques are interconnected, even though for instance, I wouldn't be surprised if Antonio and Subrats and Patricia Steer are best of friends or in contact on a regular basis. It's sort of like one agency dealing with another agency, cooperating in terms of the greater script. So whatever they gave us, it was handed to us on a plate for a reason. There is a deeper story behind this stuff, and if you choose to listen, or if you choose to look, you will find it. So I've spoken about it so many times. I don't judge any of these men or women playing the role. They could be the most dastardly. They could be. I don't make any bones about it. I mean, if all is as it seems to be, these have to be decried as enemies of mankind, right? So it's like enemies within enemies, sort of thing. So deception within deception. But if all is not as it seems, and you choose to hang on based on what you thought all seem to be, um, it might be a big mistake. But what we can do, or what I can do, is point out the deception. And when I say we there, I mean you yourself. Once you recognize this, if you recognize deception in me, fuck off then. Tell me to fuck. That's what I mean. When you recognize deception in me, tell me to fuck off then. From your own point of view, that's what I meant by that. Not you fuck off. If anyone recognizes deception in me, say it. You're free to say anything. There's no wrenches in chat. Um, Anyone is welcome on for a chat if you want to, really. Even though I don't chat too much to people, but if you want to chat about deeper stuff, uh, yeah, I guess that would be okay. But in the chat there, anything goes. And yeah, what do we know about any other character? I certainly know less about any other. You can be sure any other character in chat than you know about me in general. But that's okay, right? That's the nature of things, and it sort of ties back into all of this technology given us. And if it was taken away from us, who would you talk to? Who would you talk to? I went around a group. I thought we were children anyway. I looked about 15 or 16, and 10 or 12 from me turned over and said, "Look, I'm just curious about a certain thing. Do you mind if I ask you a question?" And the question was basically, have you heard about the idea of the Earth being flat as opposed to a spinning ball? And what do you make of it? What do you think of it? And of course, the majority of them I thought it was ridiculous. This is the way it's been painted, and and I was talking for about 15 minutes, I suppose, you know, especially to one guy at the end. But yeah, majority of them tuned out after a certain point. And the one you're left talking to is like the bowler here, then the one who, and I don't mean that in a bad way. He was pretty cocky because he was very young, but he was a naval. He was a sailor. He told me, so a member of the Irish Navy. I said you should do. I said go and ask your crew members who have much more experience than you. Really, do they think that the Earth might be flat, or have they been looking into it? Because I reckon anybody fucking worth their seesaw knows the Earth is flat, and especially once the idea is presented to you. So imagine I literally spend my life at sea, right? And I was an honest man, and I sort of accepted the nature of things as was presented to me by all the scientists, those who know better, and the great thinkers, the great doers, great achievers, the great composers, etc. Imagine I did that. Um, yeah, when it, yeah, and I spent my whole life at sea, so that was the job I took on. I just would have taken it all for granted. So when the idea of flat Earth would have come to me, just to kind of speak for myself, obviously, but I imagine it would apply to lots of people. As I looked into it seriously, I would realize I was sailing on a flat ocean all my life, wouldn't I? I have to, I can't put myself in that position, but that has to be the situation. That's why I reckon it's sort of advanced thinking. I thought about this years ago. The true nature of our Earth is always known. Whatever we want to call life here, it's well, it's set out. It's sort of set out in the way you are the loose cannon in life, and I is featured in life. I was thinking about the Holy Bible. The first letter in the Bible is I, right? Genesis 1. In the beginning, I-N-T-H-E, beginning, B-G-N, B-N-G, N-G. They stress it twice. There we have the Masonic square and compass, or compass and square, right? The A and the V, and then we have the G in the center. We have the gut area in the center, the grand unifying theory. So yeah, you know what I mean. So I would, if I didn't realize this beforehand, I would soon come to the realization that I've been sailing on flat fucking water all my life. So who are you going to say to, though? So I've often said this about all of the antagonists. I'm going to say on both sides here. Yeah, they all know, they're privy to a greater truth. So when you're kept stewing and arguing over the same issues, you're not meant to be there if you realize that there's some sort of a greater scheming going on. So you're ready for the next step. And whatever the next step is, well, you decide. You decide. I think, as opposed to nothing really being capable of being known, everything is capable of being known by us. The experiencer here, the human, the HU man, right? So, yeah, the whole game changed when we came to Flat Earth. Not incidentally, not accidentally. Most of you and most of us, not so much me, because I was looking into Flat Earth from a different point of view. But when the likes of Eric Dubé's 200 proofs or 100 proofs to begin with, and Mark Sargent's, these are all excellent. Great hope at the very beginning. Antonio Subrat's, Nathan Oakley's, their sun tracking experiment over or measurement involving cooperation of hundreds of people, I suppose, all very hopeful, you know, and yeah, all the anomalies popping up. Yeah, it was like early days, but yeah, here we are. How from that central time, Mark Sargent just came out of 2015, so here we are in 2019. That's 4 years ago. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. But nothing has changed. Do you understand that nothing has changed? You see how nothing has changed? Same points that have been talked about now have been talked about then. We have the same teams, ultimately, of people who are prominent. And, well, yeah, what has changed? How do you view this greater arena? I guess is it, against one. It comes back to the individual. Who am I talking to here, right? Yeah, but yeah, if I go back to the original song, Acadian Driftwood. I sang it loads of times, of course. We sort of run out of songs to sing, but it was a good song to sing as well. Acadian Driftwood itself, there we have the wood in the title. Driftwood is associated with sort of damage, destruction of trees, or similar type structures. Jesus was a carpenter for a reason. Carpenters dealing what in dead wood, right? So Jesus is a divided state without and within. But let's see if any of that reflects in this lyrical content by the band, right? So a very singular title for a band, I guess. War was over and the spirit was broken. The hills were smoking as the men moved through. We stood on the cliffs. We watched the ships slowly sinking to their rendezvous. They signed a treaty and our homes were taken. Loved ones forsaken. They didn't give a damn. Tried to raise a family. End up the enemy of what went down in the plains of Abraham. Acadian Driftwood, Gypsy Tailwind, they call my home land of snow, Canadian cold front moving in. What a way to ride, oh, what a way to go. So what exactly, they go down on the plains of Abraham, right? So this Christian influence on all things historical, especially stemming from, well, 2,000 years ago when the man himself arrived, I guess. Yeah, but beyond that, Abraham, of course, is, when is it, 2,000 years behind that again? What the fuck? Like, how can we relate to any of this sort of stuff? And I was thinking about that earlier on. It's all about this ultimate separation. So it's not just on one level that we're being separated from truth or being tested or tempted or tried. That's a good thing. We might talk about later on about the book of Job again. It's coming. I've heard a few people mention it as well. If you notice in my description box, every time it's BeHeMeTH. This to be BeHeMeTH is to be found in the Book of Job and in a very specific place as well. But 9/11 was an inside Job, we're told, or an inside job. So when we start making these different connections, job is from us, UZ. Anyway, so this is all pertinent to us. But when they, yeah, this is how they're hand in hand. This is how I'm glad to be able to express it as well, actually. So I'm just after getting the basic idea, I combine it with everything else and see what comes out here because I know what I'm thinking. Yeah, so science has led us to a separation in terms of all of the things that we can relate to. So we can relate to time and distance, right? So in terms of time, in terms of distance, we on Earth here is separated from everything to a what is it, 13.7 billion year degree. Now I pointed out before, not to get diverted, but 13 times 7 is 91. There we have 9 and 1 again. We're all familiar with 9/11. I told you 9/11 is about 2 becoming 1. This reflects us as well. I hold that the Notre Dame hoax, symbolic hoax, represented that end of division, the second coming. Right, so this second coming represents uh, rebirth. We are rebirthed into the way things are, into reality. Right, we're coming to know ourselves now, our true natures. We've left behind this this monstrous separation, I suppose, is the best way of putting it, in terms of what science, all of intelligentsia have to offer. Right, so we've left that behind. Now, this is why the Bible literalists, I hope you're getting all of this. This is why the Bible literalists are so strong a force. They're a coordinated, united force, and they're all equipped with excellent arguments. So, you'll be convinced. When we start to ask questions, and once we know that the Earth is flat, if we know that, then where do we go for guidance? Well, this is where the Bible literalists come in. This is the second leg of the separation. Now they are separating our spirit, our spirituality, our connection to this higher power in terms of well, historical accuracy, historical description, at least over the last 4,000 years. This is where the Plains of Abraham comes into this song. So science and religion, it's the same, it's two sides of the same coin. Right? Ultimately, the battle, I guess, I'm thinking now, ultimately, the battle is between science and religion. So science is all about belief now, right? Whereas religion, in the real sense, in terms of my religion, I won't use it in that sense, but in terms that we associate it with, that spiritual, that connection with a higher power, that has all become about knowing now. I know that there's a higher power there. Whether it is intricately connected to me or external to me, I still know it is, and I can't imagine for a second it's external to me. But maybe there are things that exist that I can't imagine. Yeah. Yeah, so Plains of Abraham, I believe the band are privy to the greater story. So let's see how this develops. Acadian Driftwood. To me, Acadia is up north, so we can tell that they're coming from this sort of relative paradise up north, and the story is being told as I go through the lyrics. Maybe if you haven't heard the lyrics before, read out, it might make itself clearer. So rather than say too much, I'll just continue on. Right, so then some returned to the motherland. The high command had them cast away. And some stayed on to finish what they started. They never parted. They're just built that way. We had kin living south of the border. They're a little older and they've been around. They wrote in a letter, life is a whole lot better. So pull up your stakes, children, and come on down. Acadian Driftwood, Gypsy Tailwind, they call my home the land of snow. Canadian cold front moving in, what a way to ride, oh, what a way to go. So thinking early on, if we remember back to the Superman movies, where did he go to sort of recharge? First of all, to the sun, right? But when he recharged his mind or charged up his mind, he went to his crystal palace, seemingly someplace up north, but of course it could have been someplace down south as well. But okay, 15 under zero when the day became a threat. My clothes were wet and I was drenched to the bone. Been out ice fishing, too much repetition. Make a man want to leave the only home he's known. Sailing out of the Gulf, heading for St. Pierre. Nothing to declare, all we had was gone. Broke down on the coast. But what hurt the most was the people that said, you better keep moving on. Acadian Driftwood, Gypsy Tailwind, the call my home, the land of snow. Canadian cold front moving in. What a way to ride, oh, what a way to go. Everlasting summer filled with ill content. The government had us walking in chains. This isn't my turf. This isn't my season. Can't think of one good reason to remain. Worked up in the sugar fields down in New Orleans. It was evergreen up until the flood. Call it an omen. Point me where I'm going. Set my compass north. I got winter in my blood. And the chorus again. Acadian Driftwood. Gypsy Tailwind, they call my home, land of snow. Canadian cold front moving in. What a way to go. What a way to ride. What a way to go. And oh yeah, just the French bit at the end. It doesn't quote it here, so I know it off by heart anyway. C'est tu Acadia, j'ai de mal du pays. La neige Acadia, fait de l'âme au soleil. J'arrive Acadia, tidelum, tidelum, tideli. J'arrive Acadia, tidelum, tidelum, tidelum. And oh gosh, here we go again. So the songwriters are Robertson, Robertson, Robert Davidson. Come on, fuck. So the clue is in the title, Driftwood. We have some sort of catastrophe which involves massive destruction of the earth. And while wood is the central theme when we think about 9/11, the two main, if you make your way through the avenues presented for you or crafted for you to make your way towards. You end up with, well, I said three conclusions. One is Judy Wood, right? So some mysterious energy weapon from space, beams from space. I might play that. Play that. Well, I won't play it now. I'll play it in a bit. Yeah, it was my based on Lionel Richie's "Stuck on You," but "Stuck on Judy Wood." So my point being that the path is paved for us. So if you spend the time and effort to making your way towards Judy Wood, then you have to realize this is beyond Judy Wood. So if you're stuck on Judy Wood, well, where do you end up? Well, you end up with let me sing the chorus first. On Judy Wood, got a feeling down deep in my basement, all is not as it should be. I guess I'm on my way. I needed no planes, no thermite for my members, no matchbox or nuclear bombs blowing out my veins. Guess I'm on my way, thanks to some beams from space. I'm stuck on Judy Wood. I might play it in its entirety later on, but yeah, the idea of that was don't get stuck at these points because you were never meant to. You were always meant to see beyond it. But if you make your way through to these points, well, then you have three choices. You have Judy Woodard's explanation, right, of how everything went down in 9/11. Dmitry Kalazov, right, and I was a big Dmitry Kalazov man. Not so much Judy Wood, but I did hear interviews and got to ask her a few awkward questions on a few occasions and all this sort of stuff. So you realize all these people are playing parts. So yeah, Judy Wood or Dmitry Kalazov both explained or described perfectly, according to their own terms, what went down in 9/11. Dmitry Kalazov with thermonuclear bombs in the basement, right? Have you not heard that? I stood up in a a fast food place down in Ennis, and I had 50, however many people there, and I told them all about 9/11 and how they were fooled. And you have to look up Dmitry Kalazov because he had the perfect explanation for what went down. He was a thermonuclear engineer in the Russian military, and now he's on the run. It's a fucking drama story, but now he's on the run, and his story still continues. But he testifies these buildings come down exactly the same way as the thermonuclear explosion. So he is, alongside Judy Wood, the main, what would you call, I guess, let's cut to the chase. They're the main characters here. What they don't do, and purposefully don't do, is tell you that they haven't looked into whether the imagery that they're analyzing is genuine. Now, this is a red flag in itself, right? Of course it is a massive red flag because I think neither of them hold to planes crashing on 9/11. So we're fed loads of fake imagery. But when it comes to them explaining the collapse sequences themselves, they don't seem to delve into that area of concern. So this is where Simon Shack, SS, comes into things. Mass, the very basics of our physical reality and our religious reality is the mass, right? MASS, which is am, SS, right? So when we think of this event of our times or the non-event of our times, it was symbolically, yeah, the event of events, right? This is what it's been all about. When we get involved in the literal, then we go down the Judy Wood camp and the Dmitry Kalazov camp. When then we understand that we're dealing with media fakery to a massive degree, we follow Simon Shack. But then we realize Flat Earth comes along, and Simon Shack doesn't want anything to do with Flat Earth. From the very outset, he had this violent, antagonistic attitude on the forums and just in general when you were talking about Flat Earth. It's all stupid, the usual. So to me, it's not just some guy having the usual reaction. Simon Shack has decoded and busted open so many, along with lots of other contributors as well. Many a hoax. You name it. If it was a hoax, it's been exposed as such on Clues Forum to one degree or another. When it came to Flat Earth Inquiry, that was his gate then. So I realized that, and it was time to leave him behind. But he was the last gatekeeper. But the gatekeepers behind him, then, we're going to call them gatekeepers, yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? They're the actors put in place, so their script is handed to them. Um, they seem to be the perfect people for the inquiring job at hand. Judy Wood is a materials and a mechanical engineer, for instance, perfect in dealing and describing exactly or analyzing exactly what we are seeing here in terms of this mechanical process of collapse that's caught on camera. And well, Dmitry Kalazov, then this Russian, what do you call the people who forego their own citizenship or whatever. Some Russia leaving to America. What do you call that in spy? It's sort of like in spy terms. A reject, a retard. um, yeah, you know the word I'm talking about anyway. So Dmitry Kalazov and spent time in prison and everything. There's a big, massive. If you haven't heard of him, there's a big, massive story behind him. But now I see, yeah, they're all part of this secondary layer. When we look at the names chosen for these characters, Judy Wood and her Jews, right? So attention has been brought to the word Jew, Jew. G-E-W is Jew just as much as J-E-W is Jew. We always have to go back to the letters as well. And this is just around where I was talking about how it turns out science and religion are two sides of the same coin. Yeah, when we get beyond this universal separation, we come to flat Earth. This is where the Bible literalists are waiting for you, but yet they will still separate you from the true story of the Creator or the true story of the Christ and what it all represents. So we were always meant to see through their acts as well. This is why they're so rigid and so sort of insistent and persistent in their performances. So we were always meant to see through it. And well, make no bones about it. It's all about you. It always has been about you. And you are me, right? Aristarchus, CH us, right? Church tells us CH, you are CH. Aristarchus tells us CH is us, so I am you. And this is a common theme as well that's expressed throughout. And, again, it's all about the context. When we gave life in our being, in our brain, whatever. Well, I mentioned the gut earlier on, the G, grand unifying theory. This is something I've been considering, an interesting thing to consider. I've been considering the male and the female components, right? Especially the regenerative components being a sort of one torn from the other, or one being a blank of the other, if you know what I mean, an impression of the other. So when the two are fitted, then you have a perfect sort of reunification. And while the grand unifying theory is about combining all of the separate or disparate elements that we know exist. This is again in terms of science, and all of science again is signs, right? They're all playing their part. It's just a different game to consider on the whole here, and don't separate yourself and your ability to make sense of it from a greater picture, because yeah, we all can. I'm sure we can. It's just about getting the right context. So we're here for a reason, because we're flat earthers, but this is obviously much beyond flat earth. And yeah, well, where do you go from here? Where do I go from here? Um, yeah, so everything's connected and everything comes back. So when we think about science and when we think about all the men of religion who are involved in great scientific breakthroughs, especially when it came to everything sort of astronomical, everything had to do with the universe at large. So there is this connection made, but once again, the connection was always there to be made and to be seen to be made. Now, take what you will beyond that after learning something somewhat of the Raven story, and well, make what you will of it. So I'll think Judy Wood in a few minutes, but let me go into chat. So hang on, before I go into chat. So yeah, Dimitri. So a perfect segue, and it's not really the reason I picked. I just decided to sing Acadian Driftwood at the last minute. But as we come into the second song, which is Lemon Tree by Fool's Garden, Dodo's Garden. Dodo is a fool, but a dodo shouldn't be a fool. Every representation you see of the dodo in film or whatever form, interpretative form, I guess, because we're given the character in the book a very limited picture painted of the dodo from chapter 3 of Alice in Wonderland. When we get to these levels of questioning, and we find out that Lewis Carroll's name was Charles Dodgson, and his nickname was Dodo because he was said to have a stammer, so he introduced himself as Charles Dodgson. It's more Pollux-like, more nonsense. So we're pointed towards the Dodo, chapter 3. Chapter 3, Jesus died at 33, 3. Us Irish have problems with our THs. But here we get into Lemon Tree from Fool's Garden, as I said. And I'd say it's a direct reference to Dodo. But yeah, any representation, Disney, the main one that springs to mind, but plenty of others as well. Dodo was always presented as a very highly thought of character, looked up to character, wise character in a sense, which conflicts absolutely with the vast majority of people's understanding what the word dodo or the sound dodo means. So once again, this is part of our awakening now. We can look at all of these different terms and things in a new light. We can reverse everything. So I talked about the spinning ball. So I talked about throwing the bath water out with the baby earlier. Yeah, be careful, right? So we can recognize deception, like Patricia Steer, and the worst man in the world, apparently. Well, actually, PJ has been blacklisted from pretty much no one's. Yeah, I'm not surprised, and it's fine, I guess, because it's all going nowhere in a certain sense. But yeah, blacklisted on all fronts. But like the moon landings, like Patricia Steer, we know that the cover story is there, but there's a deeper layer to it all. And that's the route we're on anyway, right? And I'd say we're well on at this stage. So just making that segue into Lemon Tree by Fool's Garden, pay attention to the words. Might mean something different to you than it does to me, but to me, well, everything comes back to the same thing, which is Aristarchus, which is the decapitated tree of life. So if you bear this in mind, lemon tree, so lemon is the sun, right? We view our reality. We see ground level buildings, structures, natural life, etc. Then we look at the sky, we see clouds, and we should talk about clouds. Excellent realization regarding clouds. Cymatics is what's going on. We know the ether is back into reality, and what's keeping these clouds, which is supposedly water vapor, at the position they're at? Why do I see these repeating patterns everywhere? First of all, the clouds as well travel in a circle, or almost a circle, a wreath-like. Been over this a few years ago, but anyway, a good amount of time ago. And how could this happen? Well, when we think of cymatics, and you have a platform where you have frequency vibrated through the plate, and we have salt crystals or something similar, then with certain frequencies, certain formations form without fail. So every time you turn it up to, let's just say, 1,220, and some coherent pattern starts to form, every time you do that, same thing will occur. This is what's happening with clouds, because the clouds are made of, I'm going to say, because the Cl, chlorine participant. How would you describe it? It's like with a water droplet, right? How much can you keep cutting down a water droplet in half before it stops becoming a water droplet? This is what I mean by particulate. I don't like talking in terms of molecules and atoms. This is all bullshit. It's all nonsense because they kill the ether. See, they kill the ether, and when we bring the ether back to life, then we understand that ether is earth. You know, remember the way of spelling it as well, with the A connected to the E. They're coup for us. Ether is an anagram of earth, an anagram of heart, right? Connecting us with the external, and then when we break it up, RTH. Then we have the theta again, RTH. Such a what do you call it? A prominent symbol in all of this. Let me just go through the lyrics of Lemon Tree anyway, and maybe apply it to a greater picture. So where are we coming from? Why? What is this life about? Life is an anagram of if-L, the heliocentric, the material. So there's a material blend. And well, as I say, I sort of think ahead of myself, because when I realize just how big sort of a stepping off point the material immaterial realization is, that's a massive thing in itself. So yeah, so in other words, we've come to figure out that there's more to everything than what we thought. So life is if-L, material, heliocentric, H-E-L, hell, where's hell, H-E-L-L, right? Old person questions, and well, once again, the material. Science tells us that all we are is the material. And we have the religious bias, right, which tells us, of course, there's something else going on. But then all religion is painted in such a bad light, isn't it? That's purposefully done as well. We got to be wise as wise as lambs and gentle as serpents. That'll do, right? That'll do. I often said this: when Jesus will be your shepherd, but what does a shepherd usually do? What's a shepherd charged with? Right? Obviously, flocking his sheep or her sheep, you know, and taking care of them, and you know, making sure everything runs smoothly until what? Yeah, it's time for the slaughter, right? What do you have under? What's the biggest celebration in terms of Christian calendar? Easter Sunday. What's a traditional dinner to serve up on Easter Sunday? Hmm. Anyway, lemon tree. So yeah, just to finish that before I read the lyrics. Yeah, so there is a material core to all of us, right? So we're not the bodies. There's something else going on. We're just stepped into this vehicle. And when we think of it in this sense, let's see what we make of it. I'm sitting here in a boring room. It's just another rainy, I said sunny, I should have said Sunday afternoon. I'm wasting my time. I got nothing to do. I'm hanging around. I'm waiting for you, but nothing ever happens. And I wonder. I'm driving around in my car. I'm driving too fast. I'm driving too far. I'd like to change my point of view. I feel so lonely. I'm waiting for you, but nothing ever happens. And I wonder how. I wonder why. Yesterday you told me about the blue, blue sky, and all that I can see is just a yellow lemon tree. I'm turning my head up and down. I'm turning around, and all that I can see is just another lemon tree. Shit. How many times have I said it, that life intrinsically is sort of like boring, you know? The adventure goes on in our brain for the most part when we think about past things and look forward to future things. In the moment, nothing much happens, you know. And I wonder. So let's see how all of this changes when he starts to wonder. What does he wonder? He wonders how. Now he wonders why. All the questions we should be wondering, right? Yesterday you told me about the blue, blue sky, and all that I can see is just the yellow lemon tree. Now remember, I'm not just reading this and making a deal out of it at random to Aristarchus. What I'm saying is this was on the curriculum for millions of school children earthwide, it turns out at the time, and you know, in subsequent times. It was like another Catcher in the Rye book, you know. It was presented for a reason. So when yeah, maybe when the time comes, all of this starts to make sense. So yeah, one of the basic questions: why is the sky blue? Have you an answer for that? Just I go to the toilet and I'll leave it halfway and I'll continue on. But I'll ask you that. Why is, as a flat earther, I use all terms, all words loosely, but why is the sky blue? And before you answer that, I'm definitely going to chat now, and I just spend a good bit of time. See, that's what I'm saying. I could talk around for ages, and I'm still only on the first song. And I never, if I made a plan to get around to something, I'd never get around to it. And so many different things I could sort of get around to and spend an hour or two. But anyway, I'll go into chat shortly and interact there. But I'll leave you with a question, just as I go through the toilet. Yeah, why is the sky blue in a flat Earth sense? Why, when you go up in high altitude balloons, does the sky at a certain point suddenly change from blue to black? If you don't believe that happens, just pick any Dwayne Kellum or any other high altitude balloon footages, and you'll see always the same situation when it goes up in broad daylight after an hour or so, when it should still be broad daylight. It is broad daylight because it comes down to broad daylight. Yeah, the sky turns from blue to black. The question is why. Fucking hell. Fucking hell. Just thought about it. Nitrogen in the air, right? 80%. Or thereabouts. Nitrogen is a big component in fertilizer as well. As we connect the ground to the sky and everything else that's going on, yeah, we can start to rethink everything. Air, water, in the air especially. So be getting back to what I think is going on. The reason why we see the blue sky is because of the water particulation in the air. The sun is the great agitator, so it stirs everything into this equilibrium, unbalance. Again, it just blasts its way around, and as it leaves, then we have a quieter time of it. And the water settles down in the morning time. Then these water particulates, if you watch the dew settling on, I can see it over here, settling on sort of an iron or a metal facade. Very, very, very thin layers until eventually it adds up. If I go out in the morning, I know that it will be pooled into droplets. This is what I always mean by water particulates, not water molecules. Water is indivisible in that sense, but it is capable of interacting and reacting. So yeah, so I'm glad for that. So when I connect the barrier, the gravity ether, the skylights, all back to Aristarchus, the decapitated tree from the ground. I see all of these different components in play. And, well, why is the sky blue? Well, it depends on what is up there, what we're actually looking through. And we've done away with, yeah, the material world, like the moon being a ball in space, the sun being a flaming ball in space, all the stars being that sort of composition, planets, etc. So something else is going on. And well, yeah, when we think in terms of reflections, when we think of a primary source, singular source to all of these reflections, and the different variables that might be in play, it starts to make sense. And one of the big questions for all the simple questions, as usual, if you can't answer them, then you haven't progressed much, really. I think for yourself, if you haven't come to some sort of if you've been in this arena asking these questions for a long time, if I haven't come to some sort of determination as to why the sky is blue, um, yeah, well, maybe your heart isn't in it. I don't know. You might be completely wrong in your determination, but your time has passed now that you should have made some sort of determination. For me, it's the material world beyond, so it's a watery world beyond. We live in an enclosed system. A barrier separates us from the saline waters beyond. The ocean waters. Salt is NaCl. So this is where the Cl is coming from to formulate clouds. Now, I've talked about this energized barrier disassociating the saline waters beyond. So if we think about the fresh water coming through in particulate form, and the other component parts, then we have Na, sodium, and Cl, chlorine. Chlorine is in our fresh waters, put into our fresh water as well. How it ties in with chemtrails as well. The suspicion is that they're planting salts in the air, right? Salts in the air which are ionized or charged in some way and attract something, whether it's whatever other salts or water particularly. But we all know from the chemtrailing, interesting word, CHEM, right? CHME, CHURCH, right? So we need to figure out what CH is about, and I'll maybe get around to that in a bit. But yeah, so this salt, that supports the idea that these clouds are salt. And lemon bird, something called lemon bird. I mentioned all of this before, but he specifically said that, and when he said that, I went, yeah. He said, how do we know the clouds are not made from salt? So that makes absolute sense then. And then once again, everything's been fed or separated from above, but there's no separating above from below. This is the whole point here. We have to bring everything back to one thing. And that one thing is, well, Earth, its component parts, right? So within this ever-present ether then, and the ether is just associated with this Aristarchus energies as it rotates. So we have a source that's rotating and defining everything. What's a day? What's an hour? What is time? It's all defined by the movement of the lights, right? In this kind of transition, this variation from moment to moment. If we didn't have this variation, how would we gauge time? We'd still be aware of it. We would still be aware of a passage of some sort. But once again, deeper questions, because it all comes back to who we really are. Tell me what my dreams are, man. No one will ever be able to penetrate within my mind to see my dreams. But by Jesus, if I was able to explain some of them, they're fantastical. And there's no separating me from me and my dreams in that sense. So again, deeper questions in play here, and all coming back to the nature of us, right? But lemon tree, yeah, and it being put on in this prominent position for the impressionable minds, I think has very good significance. And yeah, everything is not as I like to think of it this way anyway. Everything is not as dark and distressing as it has been painted. And I think if we ask the right questions and sort of look the right way, we're able to see through it somewhat, which is always the purpose of it. We're greater than the experience here. We are having this experience in division, no doubt about it, male from female, self from self. you know, external from internal. So yeah, I can see the dew settling here. So the sun will come back. The primary reflection of, I say, secondary reflection of Aristarchus, the primary reflection of Polaris. So as Polaris does its circle, then all of the other skylights do their circle as well. The variation being the contour and dimensions of the reflective barrier. It's an invisible barrier, yeah, watery barrier, and acts like a mirror, and especially then through the water. This is how we actually see. So when there's no light, when there's no interaction, then we don't see. So it's this water particulation everywhere. H2O, right? Two H's and an O. Once again, H2O. H is the eighth letter, so we have 8, and then O is the eighth element, oxygen. So 8, 24. CHURCH. C is 3, H is 8. So it's 24 quoted there. 888 is the number of Jesus as well, the number of the Son, if you want to put it like that. Anyway, I was just thinking of one of those young fellas I was talking to today. It turns out he said he was 25 and he looked about 15, and he was in the Navy. But after he kind of said something to me, I said, "Well, you're very cocky, and the whole point about life, in one sense, is what we can learn from it." He didn't like that, so that was the end of that conversation. But I was fine with that as the end of it anyway. I didn't mean it in a bad way, you know. It was just more that we don't know anything. It was like with Sean G and him introducing this Sasha character who supposedly 15 or 16. You don't want to be debating with uh, youngsters, not to take away anything from youngsters, but you don't want to be debating an issue because you know, me as an individual, I've been through that process. I've been where they haven't had enough life experience. But if they're going to come along and debate me on something that I've left behind anyway, that's going to end badly, isn't it? It's not going to go well. You don't want to do that to some youngster, but you also don't want to get engaged in that sort of argumentation as well. It doesn't lead anywhere at all. Um, for the most part, all of these different polar antagonists are just the same. They're not, they're acting their part. They all know the earth is flat, but the part that they're acting, they're all singing from the same sort of hymn sheet. They're all defenders of all things official, and there's no swaying from that in general. But I think all that is, I'm not going to say it's all changing, it's all fucking designed for you. All this interaction, as you can see now, has increased between um, the ball earth and the flat earth side, as if there is sides. You know, you're encouraged always to pick a pen, because if you go with this side, if you go with the Naked and Oakley crew or the Mark Sargent crew or the Eric Dubé crew, then you're stuck in that camp. Now, if you, as a genuine person, become involved in these groups and you start asking genuine questions to find out what really is going on, you'll soon be ostracized. You absolutely will be. And that's the nature of the beast, I think, as well. These people are put in place to cater for these inundations, the masses that are coming into asking questions and this sort of new way of thinking on a regular basis. So yeah, the pens are all placed for us, right? The pens were placed for the black sheeple as well as the white sheeple. Make no bones about it. And as we come to the internet here, I realized it long ago. The whole thing is controlled. But what do we make of the greater story? Tomorrow, but any guitarist out there will tell you about the pick monster. There's a pick monster out there. He just swallows picks. He comes out of nowhere, and you look around, gone. It's gone. And I must have asked hundreds. Any guitar player tell you the same. They just go. It's sort of a tension thing. But I've said before many occasions, thank God for fingernails, because us guitarists would be screwed otherwise. Or those who like playing guitar. But yeah, the whole arena is set up, and you're being penned off. You're being herded, corralled, or at least these things are there for you to sort of. These traps are there for you to fall into, but we shouldn't look upon them as sort of traps, as aids and sharpening tools. Is probably a good way. It all depends on how you sort of evaluate the overall picture. That's what I see more and more. It's all about the context you place to everything. And there's no sharing context, right? I'm just here as an individual talking about my context and whatever context I perceive to be in play. It's a different question for absolutely everybody. And certainly in terms of some of the books that I'm thinking about, because there's nowhere else you can go to hear about the dodo in the terms that I'm talking about, or Aristarchus, even though I know that these are ingrained into the story. So yeah, you're on your own in this one to a big degree, and yeah, we're reminded in stuff. I'm trying to think. I have it all written down here somewhere else. So let me. There's so many different things telling us that you and me are one and the same. Well, just the first word that came up as I wrote up my notepad here is scriptures, right? Script you are. Script you are. So it's all pre-scripted, right? And as I talked about the Bible, the whole Bible, right? Earlier on, the first letter is Genesis 1. Well, G is the first, Genesis 1. But in terms of the script itself, I, right? So it all comes back to I. Now, number of man. So just thinking again, the number of man. Well, I didn't think about this before. We're told the number of the beast is 666. Number of man is 616. Now we know that there are 66 books in the Bible, from the first Genesis to the last Revelations, and yeah, that's the number of man, right? Your number is up. Yeah, the Bible is about you. It's all about you. And this is where, again, this externalization comes into things. We come away from a certain scientific externalization. Now the Bible, the religious faction, which is all there is really, it's a tempter, right? The religion is the real legion. It's an army on a different front. Well, then they will keep that externalization going, because they'll have us imagine times that didn't exist, and put our faith in characters who didn't exist as well. And even if the character did exist, if you fashion a faith for that character, you will never know for certain whether you're right or wrong. So in one sense, you're after creating an idol. You're guilty of idolatry. Spirit of the Creator is within, and as I pointed out the last night, within God and the devil. I mean, it'd be worth bringing it up again. I mean, I'll do that in a bit. But just a few more. I'd have to look now. No, I'd have to look through a load of things, but Aristarchus is a good one. CHUS, right? So church tells us CHR. Aristarchus is RIST or RCHUS, right? When we answer those questions, we put the words together, we get Christ. So Christ is within CHRIST. So we have the ST. I don't want to get devolved into this or go into this for the minute, but all the letters mean something. We have the T in relation to the L, for instance, where we have a lower bias, the material, the immaterial centers. It's the brain, it's the thought center interacting with the body, right? But nothing is as it appears. And, well, as I've said many times, our hearts are not pumps, right? It's the opposite. It's almost like a siphon, if you will, as it's just a natural rhythm that is applicable to all, I should think, all life. Well, the tree of life encompasses everything, right? But yeah, that constant, okay. Well, just as I was thinking it, I was thinking about Mach speed yesterday. Why they call it Mach speed when you make the speed of sound? Mach is CH again. So this CH, if we think about the numerical arrangement, in code dodo and pretty much all other codes, we have C is 3 and H is 8. If we multiply them, we have 24, number of Jesus, but if we add them, we have 11. Now, 11 is a number of separation. 9/11 became 9/1, right? So 2 became 1. So how is Jesus connected to separation? As I'm saying, Jesus came into being, the separation within, the dodo within came into being when the tree was separated from the tree. See the way I confused 3 and 3 there? So we have that separation. Jesus died at 3/3, right? Tree. So yeah, that separation is 11. That association is solid, I guess. It is 1 becoming 2, a 2 becoming 1 again. This is what 9/11 represented, and as I say, the Titanic, that other symbolic hoax, which definitely connects to 9/11, that was about 1 becoming 2, and what followed then was 100 years of, well, what are you going to call it, turmoil, until we came to 2012. You remember all the hype about 2012? So at some point, we're going to have to look at all of this as if it's pre-scripted. One of the main messages given to us is, well, I am the same as you. You are the same as me. There's a distinction between the male and the female, but that distinction has been blurred now. And I think ultimately for, let's call it proper reasons, because it's getting back to our true natures. We all feel a division. I think, we all feel a division. And we all have an idea of what a soulmate. And I'm thinking, it doesn't matter who you meet, there'll always be, yeah, is it possible? Is it possible? Well, to reconnect with your soulmate? Well, it is. And in the greater sense. And that reconnection is made by understanding that, well, everything external connects with everything internal. So just before I go into chat and finish off this lemon tree, well, funny enough, as I mentioned lemon bird, for mentioning that maybe the clouds are made of salt. Yeah, perfect. So finish off on that. We have the sodium chloride, water, salt water, been separated by the energetic barrier. What comes through is the particulates of salt, which is in the chloride form as clouds, right? This is why the clouds react to the pervading energies, the Aristarchus energies, and we have these repeating cloud patterns. Because, like somatics, there is this particulate involved, and when they find their layer, it's their resonant layer within the greater system. Gravity is this pushing force from above. You see, they did away with the ether, so yeah, that leaves us in unreal land, la la la. The ether is a fundamental part of all of this, and we were always meant to come back to it. But Nikola Tesla taking energy from the air, etc. The whole of Tesla is a counterpart to Einstein or the fabricated character, and well, each of them holding their own series of clues in regards to the greater picture here. So yeah, you see the way I waffle on. Let me finish off. I'm sitting here. I missed the power. Okay, what do you miss? So you're coming from. So I'm saying about being birthed or birth as well. BIRTH, right? Birth, very fundamentals. All of these basic words, all of these core sort of representations are heavily encoded. So there, that th is very significant again. T has a value of 3 in code dodo. And then we have the H is 8, which is 3/8, which is 11, or 24. So not to get diverted again, but the TH represents the theta, which is for the symbol of the theta, it's the 1 and the 0, right? It's circumference, the circle, and it is the diameter. One representing the uncountable, the immaterial, the woman, and the other representing the countable, the erection, right? So the solid is filling the space. So it's that sort of idea. It's this culmination or combination of component and separated parts that brings us to unity. That term has been going around as well, hasn't it? Okay, well, lemon tree. I missed the power, right? What power? I'd like to go and take a shower, but there's a heavy cloud inside my head. I feel so tired, put myself into bed. Well, nothing ever happens, and I wonder. Isolation is not good for me. Isolation. I don't want to sit on the lemon tree. I'm stepping around in the desert of joy. Maybe anyhow I'll get another toy, and everything will happen, and you wonder. I wonder how, I wonder why. Yesterday you told me about the blue sky, and all that I can see is just another lemon tree. I'm turning my head up and down, and turning around, and all that I can see is just a yellow lemon tree. And I wonder how, I wonder why. Yesterday you told me about the blue sky and all, and I think I left out of it as well. I was singing it, and all that I can see, and all that I can see, and all that I can see is just a yellow lemon tree. So he repeats that 3 times. Songwriters Peter Freud and Freudenthaler. So we have Freudenthaler and Volker Hinkel. Hinkel, Hinkel. There we have the L at the end. Very interesting. Well, what do you reckon? So when we have this greater context for it, then doesn't everything seem to be revolving around the same thing? And he's turning around when he thinks about a lemon tree, and he wonders about the blue sky. We get to see the blue sky because of the sun, right? The sun activates or agitates the water everywhere, and well, this is what we perceive then, or allows us to perceive the sky as being blue. But when, even though the sun is still doing its thing, we rise above the water in the atmosphere, then the sky turns black. This reflective mirror screen that turns into exactly that. And yeah, what's the source of the sun? The tree at the center, Aristarchus. What's it doing? Well, it's turning around. This is why I say now, in a new sense, the Earth itself is not flat or still, because something earthbound, something associated with Earth is rotating, is moving once per day, 365 times per year. Television resets, that's a big sign that we're dealing with a singular source to everything. I'm thinking now at this stage that the planets could be, although no, maybe I won't say that now. Yeah, well, there could be sort of limbs from the tree, so the tree could have 7 limbs. But but ultimately, it all is associated with the one central source, and that's that tree at the center. And well, how funny it is that the song beforehand, Acadian Driftwood, was sending us northwards. So I set my compass north. I got winter in my blood. And here we have lemon tree. So that was incidental, to be honest with you. So I hope you enjoyed that. And then my heart and lute. My heart and lute. My heart is an anagram of earth, anagram of ether, with the A and the E connected. What they're telling us via these choice of sort of word structures and the letters used is that all of these things are connected. The heart of you, the earth itself, and ether. All a singular point of interaction. And well, what can I say? Aristarchus. So okay, by the time I went to chat, sorry about that. I'm sure there's probably nobody there. But yeah, you definitely have my attention for a while now. If you want to ask or engage in any way, even though I haven't gotten anywhere, everything seems to be coming through okay. Say hello. Yeah, everything's coming through. You see my Nike T-shirt? Just do it. Just do it. Do it. Time is me it. Right. It again. It with upward leaning. Il lower leaning. Right. So ill. Ill anyone or hell anybody? I'll just turn down the, what do you call it there? Hey, Matrix Media. How you doing? I'll start from the lower part as opposed to the bottom upwards. How you doing, Matrix? I haven't heard you contributing in a while to any of these hangouts. I'm sure you're fucking sick of it, like the rest of us, bud. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. Like you're met with the same characters who act in unison on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis at this stage. So if you haven't thought our way as the individual beyond these characters, well, I don't know what to say. I've long since done that, of course, and realized that they are unified under some sort of a common goal, right? They're all privy to greater secrets, greater knowledge. They have to be. With 9/11, for instance, when they all react in unison with abject horror to the suggestion that there might have been fake media or fake victims. This is a giveaway, right? What are we, fucking dumbasses? So yeah, there's a different story in play, and we were always meant to see these boundaries, I guess, these characters. That's the only way I can look upon this, and I'll apply that to the flat Earth side as well. Matrix, right? This is what I was talking about earlier on. This sort of divide and conquer. You're either with us or you're with them. But then when you're with us, well, be careful about what you ask. We like certain questions. We don't like other questions. That's not good, is it? So we learn more about people and their intentions by what they won't talk about over what they will, and we do get a sort of very limited opportunity to sort of share thoughts with any like-minded individuals as well. But once again, probably the way it has to be, it is the individual's journey, so you have to make what you will of it. So yeah, how you doing, Tom? Tom Corner, I haven't heard of you in ages, although I heard, were you on with Dell recently? I'm not sure, Tom, but I heard you definitely speaking with somebody. Dell has me banned from his chat, but that's all right. I hope you're well and good, Tom. I'm not sure if you do your hangouts anymore. We never got that chance to talk that time, but so be it. So be it. When Jamie deleted all his hangouts, it seems. So that's a shame, isn't it? That's as bad as Patricia Steer. So anything that might have been said, and there was some fucking great conversations on with Jamie. I'm talking about myself and Jamie more so than any sort of antagonistic encounter, with Wall Earthers or anything like that. Definitely some great topics talked about, and the, appreciative of the ability to talk openly about pretty much anything. But the fact that it's all deleted now, gone down, memory too, gone down the shitter. That's a bit of a shame. It's like Patricia Steer deleting all of her content. What's that about? You don't give a fuck for your fellow man if you did that. This is, you know what I mean? There's something else wrong here. What, because someone called you tranny? Your own fucking boyfriend, your own fiance called you tranny. Don't put me in that situation. You know what I mean? This is the situation that I knew was developing at the time. We had two prominent characters, and there was this connection made between both across the water. And yeah, then this whole drama developed, and it's like an awkward moment that you're caught in a room, an awkward situation, generally between couples or something. Now I could tell you many of them. Oh, I'll tell you the fucking. Oh, that was fucking epic. That was epic awkward, like epic awkward. One of the epic awkward moments I remember from my friend Morris, and he I'm not framing it right now, but he genuinely thought this, and he went over and like was chatting up or chatting to somebody or whatever, and he asked her how many months pregnant she was, and it turned out she wasn't pregnant at all, and that sort of that still is that sort of frozen moment is you can't buy it. You can't buy it. But one of my own beats that. One of my own. I think Sarah was with my son's mom, and yeah, she realized it when I realized it as well. But we were down in Lahinch, which is just a seaside resort off of the west coast of Ireland in Clare, and I met this girl. Just happened to see her with a man, and we just stopped and said hello to one another. I hadn't seen her in ages, and I didn't really know her too well, but I knew her a little bit from a few encounters beforehand. But anyway, to cut to the chase, last time I'd seen her, she was engaged to somebody, right? And I didn't see her after that. So, as my memory goes, I wish her the best, and then I just assumed everything went grand because it was really close to getting married as well. So the next time I see her, it might have been a year or two later or something. The next time I see her, and after all this, it's like, oh, this is your new husband, and how you doing? And it turns out that it wasn't at all. And the only how will I put it? It was unbelievable. The only way she could react to the situation was that she had to deny it. So when I said, "Oh, I suppose you had a great time. Is this your new husband?" and she just had to deny it. I don't know what you're sort of talking about. So as it turns out, she had married somebody else, and the previous arrangement had fell through, right? And she hadn't told the new husband. So I don't think it was just the new boyfriend. I think it was the actual husband. So how fucking awkward is that? And me and Sarah realized it after a while, after me going, but don't you remember that when we were? And then I suddenly realized that she didn't want me to expand any further, and I suddenly quickly dropped and altered the conversation. But that's fucking awkward, right? Awkward. Didn't quite explain that properly, but fucking hell. Ooh, imagine that conversation afterwards. Shit. But yeah, yeah, Tom. So that's the last time we spoke anyway. And or the last time we had much contact. But yeah, um, Matrix. The system is always going to win. They're trying to replicate what God has done, translated into maths and graphs, but it doesn't equate. Logos don't realize it. Right. I was actually thinking about this earlier on. What is, right? You can try to describe it all you like. And I made the equation between a piece of music. I'm working on a piece of music at the minute, or just a song or whatever. So as I sort of craft all of the different intricacies, it will sort of come naturally. I've used the instrument I have and the different variations I can go through and put my own mind to it and craft something. So once the thing is crafted down and I can sing it or play it or whatever, then I can write it down, matrix. I can get all the musical notation and all the different stress points, and somebody who is able to read music would be able to reproduce it. But there would be a certain element lacking. And just like they say, of course, the map is not the territory. Well, the music sheet is not the music itself. Yeah, the graph is not the math is not the reality. And well, as long as we realize that this is the case, we can leave them to their roles, because it is a role. All these people are smart enough to have asked themselves the same question as we have. Absolutely. And I think in a way they're overtly telling us that they are playing a part, and we need to read between the lines and move on. It is all about the individual. And well, what do we make of things as individuals? That's a question for for you out there. And yeah, Tom, I mean, every question that's out there in general, each and every one of us as individuals will have a different approach, and that approach is only known to you, and you alone. Even me here is sitting in this unnatural setting and talking to myself fundamentally. I'm not expressing myself properly or coherently, but that's okay because I never do that anyway. But I don't mind that, because I'm not looking for um, an audience. I'm not looking to sort of present a show. You know what I mean? That takes that. It's not that it takes. Not that it's not worth it. I could definitely see how it would be worth it, but not with how do you put it? Other influencing factors in play. Super chats, money making out of all of this. That's not good. For instance, someone who is making money from this, who's to say they can't be approached from intelligence services or something behind the scenes, offered money to, keep a certain gate and keep any listeners sort of controlled in a certain fashion? Who's to say that that's not the case? I'm not saying it is the case, but who's to say it's not the case? So when we have money sort of polluting things, well, then it's all prone to sort of turning sour. Definitely, and in general, it does turn sour. And once again, if we think of the arena, it's the most important arena of our lives. Honestly, well, let's not play around here. Absolutely, phenomenally big. This is what it's all about. But none of us knows where it's all going. Um, so yeah, how do we cope or broach even this way of thinking? That people are put in place from both sides. There are people compromised, and in inverted commas, real truth is being suppressed. These are difficult questions for the individual. It's a very suspicious arena indeed, and well, trust yourself, know thyself, right? Trust yourself. Once you know your own true motivations, your own true heart, no one can take it away from you. And even if all ends up sour and bad, well, it's still all good, right? Because you did what you could. You kept true to your heart. Um, so yeah, many different questions at play. And one thing I do realize here as well is there's many different layers at play. And where I will hold out, um, it's hard to say. Let me find the right words now. But let me put it like this: I understand that on a daily basis, on a weekly, basis, on a regular basis, there are new people being forced to consider flat Earth, and establishments like Nathan Oakley um, and bowler equivalent. Ranty has gone back doing entertaining bowlers again, so the same old arguments. They're all good in a particularly limited sense. We know the spinning ball is a dead thing, but it's easy to say what isn't. What is the bigger question for us as individuals, and that's what I mostly talk about here, isn't it? I don't present any diagrams, any not so much anymore anyway. Any visuals so much to prove the case to anybody or to try and make a better case, because I realize who am I making a case to? I'm just playing the game here. But putting all of these different pieces together, I'm just expressing it. You know what I mean? I'm just saying that this is what I found, and you can take it or you can leave it. That's all. But more so than that, it's very therapeutic in a sense for me just to speak openly like this. So getting back to sort of selfish motivations, there's my own personal questions that I'm looking to try and answer, and also with always due consideration for my beautiful son in mind. And I was just thinking before I came on here, I mean, is it better in the sense that my son and me are parted temporarily, even though it is extended temporary but is it better in a sense because what I have to say would cause so much turmoil, wouldn't it? And just a way of thinking. It's a tough one as well. But yeah, it is about the individual. And as we are here, and as most of you have been here for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, to recognize, our brain, goldfish brain. I mean, what is it, 3 years at this stage, man? We met first on these hangout chats. Tom is probably the same. Midnight Gardener, definitely. So again, as individuals, our individual questions are how far have we come? So I don't know what your answer to that is. But let me read a few more comments anyway. And I haven't even talked about it. So when I don't talk about anything else anyway, let me talk about the ether. Play a few more songs. Let me talk about the ether and how absolutely pertinent to all of this is. But again, the ether isn't just a magical, mythical thing in itself. It just appears out of nowhere and does what it does. No, there's a root, there's a connection between them. So yeah, I will talk about that after to say hello to more people. So I'll stop talking a bit and deal with comments and chat a bit more. So I apologize for leaving anybody out. Midnight Gardener, how you doing? Fool's Garden, I just sang Lemon Tree by, so very interesting. Hang on, what's that? I put the slogan over the local suicide bridge. I found it funny. What slogan was that? I missed that. Oh, did you put that? Did you put that in some sort of? Well, isn't that Jesus? What? Hang on. Jesus, best thing twice before he frowns upon you. Is that the slogan you put on on the bridge? Uh, Midnight Garden. I'm not sure about that. Maybe I probably read that wrong. Jesus, best thing twice before he frowns upon you. I guess if you got to that stage, you're about to jump, and you get hit with some sort of a shock message like that that makes you think, yeah, you could be very close to meeting Jesus. Well, not you could be. You are very close to either meeting him or definitely not. Finding out anyway. But yeah. Um, I want to go back too far now. Sorry about that. AJM, how you doing? Abadan, you say. The pit of hell. The monster from beneath. Yeah, mm, I'm thinking about all of this, AJ. You wouldn't like what I have to say. God and the devil are within. Um, you decide the direction. You go upwards, TH, you're downwards to the hell, HL. The best and the worst is within all of us, and all we can do is relate to our own experience. So therefore, like, it's a sort of a necessity for me in my thinking anyway, as all the stars reset on an annual basis, that there is a singular source, primary singular source. It's sort of the same with us as individuals. We are all separate but yet united. They're the same process, the same thing ultimately applies to me and you, and no separating us there. So yeah, that all of these stories, the Bible, and pretty much everything else as well, is ultimately related to us. All the children's stories, Alice in Wonderland, of course, are not a big deal. It's all related to us. Our story, Alice, all of us. So you're representative, you're God's representative on earth here, AJ, if you want to put it like that. But if you put all your faith in Abrahamic religion, something that you can't relate to, if you put up on a pedestal a picture of a man outside of yourself, but you don't know if it's true or not, then you're crafting an idol outside of yourself. And that's not good. You're told not to do that for a very specific reason. Jesus is within, is the Son, it's the divided state, right? This is why the journey must be made, and this is why Jesus died on the cross at 33 and resurrected. You know, there's a journey we must take. We have the choice. But you don't believe that. You put your faith in a literal story, and I can't take that away from you. If you, with all your heart, believe that, that's fine. Can't say you're right or wrong. I'm just saying, or I'll just ask you to consider, because of course I consider what you consider, right? But I'll ask you to consider that it, I do hold the Bible is from the higher power, the Creator, if you want. It's a greater story of all of us, and are there not many different layers that the creator is capable of writing in? Come on, you know. But you're in your own category, and I would say, just in general, beware of the people who have come to flat Earth to absolutely change their mental framework regarding life, the universe, and everything, but cling steadfastly to the literal Bible. This is a red flag, I'm afraid, because we have to be capable of throwing everything out once we've thrown the universe out. And when you don't, that is a red flag, especially because of all the information available regarding historical revisionism. And that's not to mind then all of the deeply encoded numbers, letters, etc., symbology is with Jesus. So, you know, after a certain point, that's all I can say. You do what you do. Hey, Jack. Easy, bud. Take it easy, bud. Yeah, just as a look at the metal top on the roof next door, the flat top, there. Yeah, there the dew is settling more and more, and you can see it's sort of thickening up. It's a gradual process. This is what I mean by water perticulation, and it is a sort of a dynamic system and constant flow, if you want. The way I look at the Earth now these days is, well, everything connected. This is what the turtle sort of represents as well, the old self-contained unit. When we see the representation of the turtle, the elephants with their trunks, right? And then the disc on top, the disc being the dodo Earth. Um, but everything is sort of connected and self-contained within the turtle. Great, what is it? Atuin, Atuin, according to Terry Pratchett, who died very conveniently, actually, when it came to the timing when flat Earth was coming to the fore. Suddenly, Terry Pratchett, who's been writing about flat Earth all his life in fictional form, Discworld form, suddenly pops his clogs, which I don't believe he did. One of the books I read very early on, that must be about 2004 or 5. Let me bring it up, actually. That's what I'll do. Just a second. Called The Science of Discworld. Amazing. Everything connects, I think. Everything that you've ever experienced. It's another thing I was thinking about. This is all designed, and we are sort of greater beings beyond this. Then there has to be a solution to everything. So it's by, you know, I guess it's by paying attention. Yeah, let me just go here. Okay, yeah, I hope you can see my screen. I guess it's by paying attention. So if I type in, first of all, Discworld. Actually, it'd be interesting just to bring up the images now. The whole stack of stuff written on. I can get lost in this. This is the problem about all of this. There's no sort of enough time to dive into every particular area, and because you could spend years on it, absolutely spend years. I could spend the next 50 years. I'm not 50 years. What I'm talking about. I could definitely spend the next 5 years, 10 years, writing books about Aristarchus and the dodo and all things connected to flat Earth, and back to us, right? I could definitely see a process where I'd have sort of the material, and I could develop structures and expand, etc. But here we have the depiction I was talking about. Let me just bring this up here. Yeah, Atuin, Atuin. Then we have the 4 elephants, and then we have the disc Earth on the top. Turtles are synonymous with, of course, saline waters, right, and longevity. The turtles are also self-contained. Elephants associated with dry land, strong, powerful land creatures. Elephants with trunks. And on top, then we have the disc where we live. So the layout of the disc, the map of the Earth, is the missing component. And as I have the whole screen up, I think I might have it here actually. Yeah, look here. These are still from the last time. I just haven't taken them down or anything. So there we have. Yes, it's again, everything's tying together. There we have the turtle missing something. So in front of everything else, in front of all, taking precedence over Alice, over all of the different things behind, we have the turtle and what it represents. Once again, 2015 Economist cover of the utmost significance, right? As a part to play in this greater unraveling theater, this greater unraveling theater. I like that. But here we have the turtle. This is just what I'm bringing you. So here's the turtle, and a perfect illustration. I don't know if you can see this now. I went through this a bit the last time. I'm not going to dwell on this. You can see the elephant here. Can you see the elephant as the trunk is coming up here? Right, here's the eye. Let me open this in Paint a second. I want to, just to show you now, because it all connects. That's what I'm sort of reiterating. Here we go. Because it would just be easy for me to draw it in red in case you can't see it. Pencil. Remember we found a cat last time on top of Patricia Steele's guitar? It's almost two cats actually. So we have one main cat and then one cat looking at the side. But then we have the stars and stripes as well. And the 50th, of course, it's the 50th anniversary from the 16th to the 19th of July, 1969. The moon landings. I think I'm close to figuring out what the moon landings are all about as well. This reconnection process, this reunification, symbolic rituals that are being performed, the reconnection of the Earth, Mother Earth to Father Sky, or Mother Sky to Father Earth, the rocket, the penis, left from the Earth and travel towards the moon. The mother, the woo man, right? And yeah, we have 3 astronauts on board, astronauts, stars, and nautical water, right? So water sailors, you could almost call them seamen, right? So this reconnection is going on, and all of these symbolic events are reflecting that. So remember I said earlier on, for the 3rd time I'll say, throwing out the bath water with the baby, and I purposely mixed that up. Yeah, that's not what we need to be doing. The story is already written. We were always meant to see through it, and now we can peel away that layer and we can see what's really been said. It's the same with the Bible. 616 is number of man, because the Bible from book 1 to book 66 is about you man, right? Anyway, there's the turtle missing a payload. Come on. This is 2015 when Mark Sargent came out as well. Well, where's the elephant? There's the Earth disk. Look, there's the Earth disk. Remember Neil deGrasse Tyson said the Earth is an oblate spheroid? Well, what does a flattened oblate spheroid look like? Remember, we're told that the Sun is at the center and all of the orbiting bodies travel in an elliptical path, right, on an annual basis. If something travels on an elliptical path on an annual basis, then it does so on a monthly basis, or a seasonal basis, a monthly basis, a daily basis, a minutely basis. So at every point in time, it's traveling on an elliptical path. So once again, all metaphor, all well, the polar opposites, right? So we take what they give us and we invert it, we flip it. When I say they as well, I use these terms. There is no they. The they are you, I suppose, right? Set yourself this puzzle. We outlive the body, we come back to greater truth. And well, yeah, that's why I think we have to have this greater context. Can you progress without spotting these clues? I don't think so, because there's nothing new under Aristarchus. So everything we know, we learn. What we do add to things is our own inimitable self. So we are capable. Every one of us is capable of the same thing every other one of us is capable of. That's certain. I am you, you are me. We're all the same. Alice is all of us. So yeah, anyway. So with the Terry Pratchett recommendation, or not recommendation, with the Terry Pratchett reference, here we have the turtle. He was an insider, Terry Pratchett. Here we have the turtle missing the payload. So he's missing the elephants and he's also missing the disc. Here's the elephant. Now, how do you see it? Let me just zoom in a little bit more. God for the high definition here. Now you have to see it, right? You can even see the wrinkly bits here. Look. Let me draw over it the way you can see. It's purposefully drawn in. Come on. right? It curves up around, the head curves up around here. And then we have the eye. Even up to the mouth here, underneath the, right? Can you see it? So the eye, the head folding down, the trunk coming upwards. I don't want to fill in too much. Lots is supposed to be left to your imagination. Let me just take that away again. So let you look at it clearly. Excellent. There's the elephants found, right? So dry land, the solidity, that material found, the material earth. Now we look for, well, in the rest of this puzzle, we're looking for, there's a disk, but we're looking for, obviously it doesn't contain the whole of the earth here. We're looking for the overall map, the overall picture. And of course, as we go along through this puzzle, again, what am I going to say? The 2015 Economist cover, all of the world leaders feature here. All the most powerful, influential people, according to the fish story, feature here. But yet, once we come to a certain stage of thinking, understanding, we realize that understanding Alice in Wonderland and her role to play in all of this, or Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is referenced by the two Babel fish here, and Panic on the, what do you call it, below. Once you recognize these roles that are pertinent, as opposed to all of this charade, then we can think in simpler terms. We can follow the Pied Piper, the hands above, starting us off with Putin. If we don't understand that clue, there's always two clues as well. If we don't understand that clue, then we find a clue from elsewhere. As we point downwards, then we go to, yeah, well, so this is our search. This is what we're looking for, because this is what the turtle is missing. And we make our way up through and back up, eventually, obviously I went through this last time, back to, here we go, the prophylactic itself, the condom itself, the two eyes for islands, Mauritius and Reunion Island. This is what happens when we have a condom, a reunion, the reunification of males and females. So this overall theme is stressed as well. We've been following arrows all the way through the puzzle. Here's another arrow pointing upwards. And just to stress it, if we just we have a line drawn up, there's no reason for this line here otherwise, right? Think about it. So yeah, as we point upwards there, we have DO. The great thing that helped us here, so tropical island, holiday destination, reunion island, two islands in the ghost snow, or the ghost eyes, etc. Yeah, Do. And then as we look down here, the waves are fine here, but we have this thing that looks out of place. And we already realized that everything has to be sort of inverted or flipped. To possibly anyway uncover some greater truth. But when we flip this, we get a 2. So upwards, Do and Do. Tropical island is Mauritius. So that's where it leads us back to. But getting back to Terry Pratchett, here we go. This is what he references. Let me just, never heard of Discworld. Well, I don't know what to say to you there. Back in 2005, I started to read all of, I think it was about 2005, then around those times. And of course, I was heavily invested in the scientific sort of paradigm that whole explanation offered of life, the universe, and everything. So to look upon this was all about great entertainment and great in terms of thought exercise, etc., adventure. Yeah, there's no scientific basis to it, or no basis in fact or truth. But what I did also read was, this is the point of bringing this up, these books that developed alongside the Discworld books. Here we go, The Signs of Discworld. Now, I haven't actually. I got the first three anyway, so I really like the Science of Discworld, and there was a couple after that. So for every different book, they could sort of. The idea was that they talked about, in a scientific sense, you had three. Okay, let me just bring it up here. It's pretty easier just to go into Wikipedia and read about because it was three particular prestigious published scientists. So they were adding their sort of critique or take to the whole Discworld setting, I guess. Hang on a minute. And explaining it in real terms. So once again, we have this duality, this confusion of what is real and what isn't. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, here we go. Let me just read this. 1999. Okay. Well, I didn't get to it until definitely out into 2000 sometime. So The Science of Discord is a 1999 book by novelist Terry Pratchett and popular science writers Ian Stewart and Jack Cohen. Right, three sequels: The Science of Discworld 2, The Glow, The Science of Discworld 3, Darwin's Watch, and The Science of Discworld 4, Judgment Day. I've never read that now. That's fucking one I'd definitely be interested because I read the other three, and they're talking about Judgment Day. When is that? Let me just, when did that come out? I might have a look into that now. If I was to buy a book, and I haven't read books in, or bought books in ages, I'd be interested in buying that. Here we are in 2019 when the Avengers comes with their End Game. Uh, yeah, the Cranberries have their album out called The End, and I've already mentioned the Limerick Association there, and more deeper than that. Noel Hogan, lead guitarist, was in school with me in the JFK Memorial School, and he used to come in every morning. Like it was one of those double desks, and for a certain amount of time, we were sitting alongside each other. We used to walk home with one another and everything. But every morning they'd come in, he'd ask me for my homework, and I pass it over to him. But he's the lead guitarist. But Dolores O'Riordan, I reckon, is in Fake Death, so that's a big thing here in Ireland. And well, their album now, their latest album or their last album, the final album is out, and it's called The End. So, interested in seeing what Science of Discord for Judgment Day has to offer, and also there's four books, so that seems to be the end one. Maybe something I need to read before the end. But let me just read the plot summary, right? The Discworld part of the books began when a new experimental. Oh no! See what they did was, hang on. Without having to read it all now, just going on memory as well. Right. So we have a sort of every second chapter we have juxtaposition between the fiction itself, right, the science of Discworld itself, life on the Discworld. So there's a story going on attached to the flat Earth Discworld, and then the next chapter then involves a sort of a critical analysis, or how would you put it? I guess a delving into the science that makes Discworld work from people who are associated, Ian Stewart and Jack Cohen, with universities and are well familiar with the science of how real Earth works. So do you understand? I think there's this greater script written into it, and I've spoken about it many times before. For instance, if you're not familiar with the Beatles, everything that I say about Sgt. Pepper's or how it connects to Alice in Wonderland, etc., that won't make any sense to you, but you will have clues from a different influence. And well, yeah, it's all about asking the right questions, right? And one thing with those children today, as I said, you all heard about flat Earth, and they were all quick to write it off as being stupid and ridiculous. But after talking to me, uh, I'm far from stupid and ridiculous. You know, I can certainly put across a point in a clear and concise manner and leave them and know when to walk away, sort of thing. Yeah, a different frame of mind, a different way of thinking then might start to kick in. And it's then you never know all the things that you liked in your life, all the big influences in your life. If they've made it to a certain level anyway, will certainly be have been put in place and incorporated this greater picture into their works to some degree or other. So let me just read this. Let me just read the plot summary anyway to the Discworld part. So yeah, so they're separated between the Discworld part of the book, right? So as I was saying, it continues on like that. So they have one chapter associated with the fictional story and characters within Discworld, and then we have the analysis of all the science that makes all the different scenarios presented within the chapter work in the first place. I couldn't begin to explain it. It's like the opposite world. It's everything that makes sense on Discworld is obnoxious or ridiculous on real round the Earth world, and vice versa as well. But you definitely have to check it out if you're a flat earther. The books are generally short themselves, and you'd be through them in days. You know, some books that you sort of never let down and until you finish them. But the Discworld part of the book begins with a new experimental power source from the Unseen University. For the Unseen University is commissioned. Let me just see if this rings. Yes, this is the one I read actually. So the Discworld part of the books begin with a new experimental power source from the Unseen University is commissioned in University Squash Court. The new reactor is capable of splitting the thom, the basic particle of magic, as opposed to the atom, right, which is the basic particle of physics, in homage to the Chicago Pile 1 nuclear reactor, which was housed in Aristarchus Court at the University of Chicago. However, the Wizard's new reactor produces vastly more magical energy than planned, and there threatens to explode, destroying the university, the Discworld, and the entire universe. The university's thinking engine, Hex, decides to divert all the magic into creating a space containing nothing, no matter, no energy, no reality, and importantly, no magic. The Dean sticks his finger in the space and twiddles them, inadvertently creating the universe. The wizards soon discover that they can move things around in the universe using Hex. They call it the round world, the Earth, because in it, matter seems to accrete into balls in space instead of discs on the back of turtles. They decide to appoint Rincewind, whom they dragged out of bed in the early hours of the morning, the egregious professor of cruel and unusual geography, and sent him down against his will to investigate this strange world. Oh, fucking hell, that's bringing back memories now. And now that I have a different context to everything, unbelievable. Shit. Anyway, the wizards create a series of balls of matter in space and give one of them a moon accidentally. This stabilizes the ball enough that over a score of millennia, the wizards can skip over vast periods of round world time, allowing them to view the history of the universe in less than a month. Blobs of life emerge, ready to begin evolving into more complex forms. The book also features a fictional crab civilization and the dinosaurs, both of which are wiped out by comets, asteroids colliding with the Earth, before jumping ahead to when an advanced civilization, presumably humans, has evacuated the Earth due to an impending natural disaster. Wow, unbelievable. So a major character in all of this. So therefore, this sort of prequel to Flat Earth is very significant indeed, and I'm certainly glad I read it, and I could definitely do with a revisiting of these books, and especially a new visit to Discworld for Judgment Day. It sounds interesting. Let me just click that for a second. Just want to see when it was released. There's not much in it actually. 2013. Okay. Okay. I think Terry Pratchett died shortly. Let me see when Terry Pratchett died. Here we go, Terry Pratchett. Fucking hell. Oh, God. There he is now. Look, the first thing I see, 41 novels, one short of 42, right? So Terry Pratchett, 28th of April 1948 to 12th of March 2015. When did Mark Sargent put his clues out? Does anyone remember? When did Mark Sargent put his clues out? It was, I think it was March 2015. Honestly, I do. Is that February or March? It's a specific time anyway. So yeah, that's what I was talking about, a timely death. And when you think about it, 48, 2015, that's 60. It's just over 66 years. I was just going to say, is it 66 years? And we have 41 as well. These people know how to take care of themselves. They live longer than that. So yeah, for someone that died, the 12th of March 2015. I wonder, is there much encoded in there? March is 3. Not to go into that anyway, but yeah, at 65, he was 66. He was 66, and if he was 66 days short of his, so 66 and 12th of March to April 28th gives us 18. Hang on, what am I doing? 18. 19, what's 19 and 28? So it's 20 and 27, 47. Okay, well, I honestly got that wrong. It's 47 days shy of his 67th birthday. So he would have been 66. And he's best known for his Discworld series of 41 novels, right? Another fake death, another influential character. And, well, as I say, if we've been paying attention, it seems I've been paying attention anyway when I read his books. And I also read The Science of Discworld. So, yeah, I don't think they mentioned, but in every other chapter, the two professors come in and start talking about all the different, both known physical mechanisms and also then theorize, for instance, they talked about the elevator to the moon as if it was some sort of a practical or potential endeavor, which is all fucking nonsense. How can you go to it? It's all lights up there, folks, in case you haven't realized. And all of the lights move in unison, and all of the lights, except, well, the wandering lights, all reset on an annual basis. I think the reason for this is we live in a long, an iron lung. That's what Radiohead called it, my iron lung. So it breathes in and out on an annual, so continuous basis, basis. So the actual membrane or the barrier itself contracts and expands according to the movement at the center, the spring and the fall of Aristarchus, right? So everything is connected. So Terry Pratchett, excellent. That brings back a load of memories now. And just to find out that he's so 42, number 42 is waiting. It's 41 novels. Absolutely. Because he's a wizard, he knows the significance of 42. So even if he was close to death, he would have definitely had a 42nd novel prepared and made it something special. So maybe we should keep our eyes open. And maybe Judgment Day, in some sense, like back here, Science of Discworld 4, Judgment Day, is number 42. Fuck it. God, listen, I'm telling you, this might sound strange, but this is the level we're at. We're at a greater game and play here. And when I talk about Michael Jackson being the dodo, you think I'm joking, or Paul McCartney, Paul Fall, the reason why Paul was divided or switched around is to emphasize that duality. Yesterday was a story of us, where we came from united into a divided state and left something behind. So all of this connects to this greater story of Earth and, well, what Earth actually means. So just go to the toilet a second, and I'm going to come back. Definitely going to expand upon ether a bit because it's all important. And I'll ask you this question. And sorry about the chat as well. If I'm constantly in the chat, I'm not sort of speaking out loud, and There's no offense to anybody at all, ever. And this question, I might have asked it the last time, but I keep asking it. I know it's all nonsense, of course. Henry Cavendish didn't exist. Isaac Newton didn't exist. Galileo didn't exist. It's all storytelling. The same hidden hand behind all of this. But let's take a question for ballers. You can phrase it whatever way you like. Let's take the official story as presented. Einstein is credited pretty much with doing away, or in around Einstein's time, doing away with the universally previously accepted ether. Right? Everyone just accepted the ether as the story goes. This was the all-prevailing sort of soup, invisible soup that everything was exposed to. So when Cavendish was doing his experiment, right, where is his consideration that the ether might be an influencing factor taken into account? Because it absolutely should have been. I don't recall if it is mentioned. I'll be a son of a gun because I did look through the paper and I did read it. It's about 15 pages. I don't recall ether being mentioned, but it is a difficult thing to follow. So I'm not certain on that. But if he did mention ether, then we can forget about it. But if he didn't, then that's some massive red flags because absolutely should have been mentioned because according to the historical timeline and the timeline, the cultural timeline, the understanding timeline in general, yeah, ether was certainly a real thing. So the fact that he didn't mention it, if it turns out that he doesn't mention it for consideration, well, that screams volumes and is another massive clue. And as I said, Henry Cavendish didn't exist. There we have HC again, 8, 3, 11, or 24. So, yeah, we'll be back in a second. Yeah, so Terry Pratchett, excellent. So I keep that page up. Let's bring up the Judgment Day. Remember what I've been saying? Hang on. Science versus religion. Is this what's been represented? This seems to be the last book that was. It'd be interesting if this was the last book released before his inverted commas death. The name itself. How many times we talked about the AT? Maybe we have the CH as well in the center. But is this what it's been suggested here? Science versus religion? showdown. This is the theme of the book now that I think about it. Wizardry is a belief. Well, that's what religion is a belief in magic, isn't it? Sort of otherworldly. And well, now that I look at this, look, we have the fight over the globe. Fucking hell. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Anyone else seen this? Just in light of what I've been saying, you know, this is what this whole arena is about. The final Gog, Magog, this Armageddon. It's the apocalypse. It is the lifting of the veil of illusion, right? Um, yeah, as all is revealed. So this is all a prequel to it. All of the pieces are put in place as I see it, and right, it's look at the bottom here. Look, I swear I've never seen this before. It's wizards versus priests in a battle for the future of round world. But now I I don't have any money really, but I think I might have to buy that. I'm sure I might pick that up in a second-hand store somewhere, hopefully for a few quid. But this might all be coming to fruition now. The story is already known, you know. All of these movies like Avatar. There we have Tar again. Remember Aristarchus? There's fucking Tar in the center. Look, rat, Tar. So there's Tar coming up again. Shit, man. I mean, um, Aristarchus, Chus. Yeah, Avatar features giant trees, right? And death by fire. So the earth seems to be destroyed by fire. The phoenix from the ashes. Um, well, I suppose I can say it has risen, I think. We are in a state of repair. So I think all of these um, measures are being taken. I'm thinking measures there. I'm talking about HARP and chemtrails and all this sort of stuff. I mentioned earlier on about chemtrails, barium and lithium salts being associated with the trailing themselves. Well, what happens after chemtrails? Clouds gather and thin mist, and you always have a sort of a miserable overcast day with no distinctive clouds after that. So that the clouds are made of salt particulate. Brilliant. Where has it been fed from? Well, think of the salt water from the oceans. Apparently, the salt isn't evaporated up, but some salt would be, right? But as well as that, then we have this sort of feeding from above. We have a permeable barrier, electromagnetic barrier, and well, yeah, it's waters beyond. We have this separation at the boundary, and the saline water and salt particulate coming through with neon, possibly a neon boundary, possibly, or not neon. Why am I talking about neon? Sodium boundary, the other constituent of saline water, sodium chloride, left behind. We have an evacuated zone immediately beneath. This is space as we know it, right? It's the only way we can know it. The evacuated zone is because we are in a system that is broken, right? And this reactionary force that causes the evacuated zone, well, is a reactionary force to an actionary force that holds back these waters beyond. The tree, Aristarchus, when it was intact, did that job, but when it was decapitated, well, the whole system collapsed. We had an inundation, inundation of waters above, which created the ocean, changing face of the earth, which is what the dodo represents, and well, the birth of the skylights, the birth of Jesus, the birth of the Son, the birth of the divided realm, right, and our entry into it. I do think it's all a construct, it's all a story, and well, we have eternity on our hands. All of these clues then are placed there beforehand. Again, a different context is placed, not just to the world without, but to our very own existence within. So isn't this very interesting? And as I've been saying that for the longest of times as well, that this is what we're being prepared for, this final battle, the science versus religion. All of the players are in place, all of the front lines, all of the liaisons are in place. And yeah, I'm just thinking I haven't been paying attention to Iran or anything like that, but some final setting is in place. And now that I just think about it, if you haven't seen the word, hang on, let me do that now because it just came to me. The game. Here we go. If you haven't seen The Game by Michael Jackson, read it. I'm fucking telling you, I think it's something like this that's going on. Let me just read it in case you haven't seen it. The Game is a 1997 American mystery thriller film directed by David Fincher, starring Michael Douglas and Sean Penn, and produced by Propaganda Films and Polygram. Let me go to the plot. Nicholas Van Orton, a wealthy investment banker, is estranged from both his ex-wife and his younger brother, Conrad. He remains haunted from having seen his father commit suicide on the latter's 48th birthday. For Nicholas's own 48th birthday, Conrad presents Nicholas with an unusual gift, a voucher for a game offered by a company called Consumer Recreation Services, CRS. Conrad promises that it will change his brother's life. Nicholas has doubts about CRS, but he meets fellow bankers who enjoyed the game. He goes to CRS offices to apply and is irritated by the lengthy and time-consuming series of psychological and physical examinations required. He is later informed that his application has been rejected. Soon, Nicholas begins to believe that his business, reputation, finances, and safety are at risk. He encounters a waitress, Christine, Christ in E, who appears to have been endangered by the game. Nicholas contacts the police to investigate CRS, but they find the offices abandoned. Eventually, Conrad appears to Nicholas and apologizes, claiming that he too has come under attack by CRS. With no one else to turn to, Nicholas finds Christine's home. He soon discovers that she is a CRS employee and that her apartment was staged. Christine tells Nicholas that they are being watched. Nicholas attacks a camera, and armed CRS troops begin to swarm the house and fire upon them. Nicholas and Christine are forced to flee. Christine tells Nicholas, Saint Nicholas, right? Santa Claus, Christine, Christ in Eve. We think about Santa and Satan. If you're good, you will get rewarded with material goods by a man in a red suit who comes down a chimney. Yeah, well, good is for goodness sake, isn't it? Good comes from within, whereas it's from the heart. It's not anything external. But yeah, here we have Saint Nicholas reference and Christ. It's out 25th of December. Um, So Christine tells Nicholas that CRS has drained his financial accounts by using the psychological test to guess his passwords. In a panic, Nicholas calls his bank and gives a verification code to check his account balance and finds out there is nothing left. Just as he begins to trust Christine, he realizes she has drugged him. As he loses consciousness, she admits that she is actually part of the scam and that he made a fatal mistake by giving up his verification code. Nicholas wakes up to find himself entombed alive in a cemetery in Mexico. He sells his gold watch to escape. He returns to find his mansion foreclosed, most of his possessions removed, and is told Conrad has been committed to a mental institution due to a nervous breakdown. He retrieves a hidden gun and seeks the aid of his ex-wife. While talking with her and apologizing for his neglect and mistreatment, he discovers that Jim Feingold, F-Ein, gold is AU, one gold, one AU, Christ, or Aristarchus. I sound like crazy, doesn't it? Aristarchus is an anagram of Christ's AU, Christ Aura, or Christ Gold Sun, AURA. And Aristarchus is the sun. When Aristarchus was decapitated, then the sun came into being, as all of the skylights did. So So Fangold, Nicholas locates Fangold and forces him to find CRS's real office, whereupon he takes Christine hostage. Nicholas demands to be taken to the leader of CRS. Attacked by CRS troops, Nicholas takes Christine to the roof and bars the door behind them. The CRS troops begin cutting through the door. Christine realizes that Nicholas's gun is not a prop and is terrified. She frantically tells Nicholas that the conspiracy is a hoax, a fiction is just part of the game, that his finances are intact, and that his family and friends are waiting on the other side of the door. He refuses to believe her. The door busts open and Nicholas shoots the first person to emerge, Conrad, bearing an open box of champagne. Devastated, Nicholas leaps off the roof and falls through a glass ceiling and miraculously survives as he lands on a giant mattress. As he gets off the mattress, he is greeted by his brother, who is actually alive, and the rest of the people from game. Connor tells him that this is his birthday present. Later, he asks the waitress for the game if she'd like to go out for coffee sometime. So, excellent birthday present, right? The birthday of Jesus is celebrated on 25th of December. The word birth itself, that's how we all come to be here, not via the word, but via the act, is BIRTH. It's a simple instruction that any child can understand. BTHIMTH, IRTH, right? Theta, 0 and the 1, the immaterial material blend. Excellent though. So if you haven't seen it, that's not doing it justice there. It felt sort of laborious reading it and a bit confusing. But if you haven't seen the movie, have a look at it. Look at it. Look at, come on, friends. Look at the release date now. Come on. September 12th, 1997. That's crazy, isn't it? It's not really though, because everything's connected to the day after September 11th. Yeah, the greatest movie of our times. See if there's anything. Yeah, EA Sports. It's in the game GME. So we talked about G earlier on, yeah, with the square and compass. So the A for Adam, the B for Eve, and then we have the G in the center, the gut center. So yeah, this is my thought, right? So getting back to it. Remember, I started it early, but I never finished it. As the male, as the male generation center, genitalia are an inversion of the female parts, right? So we can equate the testicles to the I don't know the female parts too well. I could just be saying that now, because I have to say that as the role I'm playing as a male, even though I'm really a tranny. The ovaries, right? So we have the ovaries, the ulnar tube leading up to it. Then we have the fallopian tubes, the ovaries, and the uterus and the vagina itself. So all the counterparts in terms of the males would be the testicles, all those tubes inside, and then the penis itself being sort of the inversion of the fallopian tube. So anyway, getting to the point. So thinking in those terms that one is sort of an inversion of the other. And I mentioned gut grand unifying theory earlier on. What I had thought is our intestines a sort of that brain turned inside out. We do say we have a brain in our gut, right? What do you reckon? I'll have a bit more. Let me think about that. But shit, only down these roads. Very interesting about Terry Pratchett now, and yeah, once again, don't get to talk about anything. Don't get to piss off loads of people in chat because I haven't been dealing with the comments. And yeah, Well, just the first comment that came back, AJ, 80 book in the King James 1611 version. Well, AJ, I think that this is the time that all of these things were written, or credited to anyway. So the same hands that wrote the works of Shakespeare, his final play was written 1611, wrote the Bible. It's just the same hand. You can put it down as a creator if you want, but there's a deeper, bigger hand in all of this, and that's way back now. So 1611, 911 encoded there, and you can see either side of the 6 or the 9, depending which way you look at it. We have 2 1s turning into 1 1. So 911 being about 2 becoming 1. Or, well, that repair, R-E-P-A-I-R, that, well, is going on externally and internally as well. So, yeah, as Aristarchus was decapitated, we had a collapse of the barrier, inundation. When I say Aristarchus as well, that caters for all the trees, giant trees, earthwide, were just branches or limbs of the main tree, Aristarchus, right? So when Aristarchus is decapitated, we collapse of the barrier, inundation of waters beyond, changing face of the earth, land, which is just the tree stump that sticks out above the water. And I was thinking earlier on, I have a fucking artificial limb, man. I have a leg stump. Fuck's sake. Unbelievable. How many people can say that? So that's sort of connection there, and that I've come to understand that maybe it's all a fucking dream in my own brain. I wonder. But yeah, So changing face of the land, and well, a sort of repair program was always in place, or was always scripted in from the beginning into this construct, a happy ending. You know, every fairy story has all these different components written into it. And it's only when everything seems most lost that everything becomes found, right, and everything resolves. But yeah, this repair involves, well, all of the steel structured towers, high steel structured towers gone up earthwide in the last, whatever, 20, 50 years. Not all of them, but that idea. And especially around within the desert areas. And I said there's many more different projects that we haven't heard about that are going on. But yeah, especially in the desert areas where we have all the tall steel structures. Dubai being a perfect example, where the highest steel structured tower on Earth, built in a desert area. These will take the place of the giant supporting pillars of the trees and will help to reinflate the barrier, right? So strengthen Aristarchus at the center, and well, the one tower, free dome tower, uh, in New York, the Big Apple, where the bite was taken out of, right, repaired. I think this would be the primary sort of generator. This is what Judy wrote in her Jews were referencing, which is everything in the universe. So the directed energy weapons will be coming from the Earth, pointed at the sky, and all acting in tandem then to, well, the best way of putting it, right, to reinflate the bubble. So what do you think, guys? I mean, what a load of shite, eh? Could be, might not be. Um, all right, well, yeah, as usual, I end up talking about a whole lot of nonsense and never get to any firm and fixed and fast points. But yeah, ultimately everything connects. I'll speak for another few minutes just about the ether, which is what I intended to speak about, and how they did away with that. So my question about the Cavendish experiment and why it was never listed as being something to take into consideration when they were looking into possible influences on the experiment itself. Well, Cavendish itself, I talked about HC, cave and dish. So Plato's cave in a petri dish. Yeah, we see through the literal and we look towards the, well, this is symbolic. We certainly look for some clues, right, pointing us towards a greater direction, which we've all been sort of pushed down near a squeeze into, like the flat Earth direction. and we helped, but being flat earthers, we couldn't. So that has to tell you there's a greater story in play, and I think we have to lose all the sort of fear, and there are many causes for us to fear ultimately, I'm thinking, but when we're thinking about clear thinking anyway, we certainly have to lose the fear, no, control your thoughts. So if we put everything in a different context, so we have the ability to make sense out of all of this, um, yeah, that might make all the difference. So ether, yeah, they kill the ether, and well, now we get the universe that we are presented with. All for the sake of contrast, all for the sake of um, well, yeah, duality, right? It's duality. It's only by understanding one thing that you can equate it to something different and come together in the center then. So, yeah, I guess it depends on how we try to, well, decode the greater picture. And once again, we're all at absolutely different stages here, isn't it? So it's difficult to sort of know. Well, first of all, on a personal basis, in what terms to think, because there's so many different avenues that are vying for your sort of attention. But then, in for forums or formats like this, exactly what to say. That's why usually I end up being flustered. But as I've said many times, if I say one or two things that, or if I do learn one or two things from these interactions or these expressions here, it makes it worthwhile. Otherwise, it's just me talking to a screen here, and that's fine as well. I know people are listening because I have due respect for everybody, but there is that sort of separation as well. But regarding the ether, yeah, they killed the ether, and now we have a present universe. You have characters like John, Quantum Eraser, Stephen Warrior, Anthony Riley, and Nathan Oakley. You mention ether to them, they don't like it one bit. They hate it. I got that similar reaction a couple of years ago from someone called Jimbo. If anyone knows Jimbo, he was a regular member at Contra Pete's and a regular contributor throughout still contributing actually at the minute. But yeah, when it came to many of the other conspiracies, he was on board, no problem. We were all on the same sort of a page. When it came to mentioning the possibility, and I was thinking about it in terms of bees as well, and how bees are actually um, physically, manipulate the air and anything like that. It's more resonance with a sort of a hidden or an invisible medium. Um, Absolute violent reaction against an electromagnetic or electromagnetized environment or anything like that, or the ether itself. I found that most strange. I found it most strange at the time, and I called him out on it. I said, it's very, very strange that you're behaving like this and having this reaction towards something that, first of all, makes absolute sense, right? But definitely, if it doesn't make sense, you should be up for reconsideration, considering all the lies we found out um, about, the characters and the scripts that are rolled out regarding our current accepted paradigm, scientifically accepted paradigm. So very strange. Sort of gives the game away, and in a sense, then I think that it's all purposely done as well. We're always meant to see through it. It's by the overreaction that I can gauge that there's something wrong. So every gatekeeper has a gate, but yeah, it's the ether. So it comes back to re-examining that, and any flat earther who will shoot you down for mentioning it, there's something wrong there. There's something absolutely wrong, and well, pay attention. Um, the ether never went away. It's ever present. It's what the skylines bring with them, carry around with them. How do we get to see? How do we get to be warmed up by the sun? Or how do we get to see by any of them? The ether is present to a lesser degree at night time, where everything is more still, relative stillness, in relation to the agitation that the sun brings with it. But we have to remember that all of the skylights are part of the same source, right? They're all expressions of the same source. So the ether is ever present, and it's this energy associated with, well, the decapitated tree of life. We think of a wire with strong electricity flowing through it, and then it being severed and it flailing around. So you can think of that sort of energy, that life force being directed upwards, creating above it, and yeah, us beneath it. So this energy, this live wire, if you will, yeah, this is holding back the waters beyond, according to my, as I see it, it's holding back the waters beyond. But also the skylights are just expressions or emanations of it. You know, it's part of the same thing, and everything is in motion. And the reason we get different observed motions of the skylights is down to the motion of Aristarchus at the center itself. So here we have a few different motions going on, but that circular constant motion brings the ether with it. And this is the medium through which everything moves. When we look at white noise, for instance, on a television or same on your radio, this is what's been expressed continuously. And just a pathway is found through this stew, if you will, invisible stew, well, via any radio transmissions, etc. Just as let me just find a picture. This is how we see the ether expressing, right? And for me, it's perfect. I have to do it myself. Actually, I don't live near a beach, and it's not quite the same with the muddy waters of the river. I'm going to go shortly as well, anyway. But it's not the same with the muddy waters of the river. But we can all equate to these wriggly. Here we go. These wriggly patterns at the beach. This might be the best example. There's much better examples. These wriggly patterns, but I just picked this one to point out this pattern on the moon here, which is crater prints adjacent to Aristarchus. These are just the patterns observed on desert sands away from water, and these are just examples of some of the patterns. We can all relate to them, right? That are left at the beach as well. So yeah, it's the sand. It's the sand. It's this cymatics. It's the response to this energized environment that leaves these patterns in this most responsive of substances, which is glass, or which is not glass. See, sand is glass is made from sand, but which is sand itself. So this is the ether expressing. But yeah, the fact that it is denied so vehemently by seasoned flat earthers without an ear for an argument. This is very telling, and well, it's something we need to be very careful of. Remember, we're being kept at the same position continuously. It's like Groundhog Day, hamster wheel day, you know, it's just the same questions are being entertained again and again. The same sides are adhering and clinging to the same positions. We should know better at this stage, and we were always meant to know better. So, yeah, it's up to you to put the pieces together. Look at these. So look at some of these images here. Look, I don't. Let me just bring one or two of them up, because this is back in the news again. This mirrored water layer. See, I don't talk about this stuff much because I dealt with it years ago. Spurs chemo, bring in Red's rhetoric's footage of rockets, and as the rocket aspect, whatever it was, some part of it fell into the distance. What happened was you see it reflecting in the water, and then a splash coming in a moment later. Well, proof of the mirrored water layer, we're told, and of course it is as well. Yeah, this is just one particular snapshot from the sunrise at Myrtle Beach from Carnaby. but pretty much all the sunrises and sunsets are the same. When you zoom in with imagery, what sets up is this parent water line. This might be 3 miles or so from your perspective on the beach at eye level. But then we have this mirror line that I call it. The fold line is the term that I hear Rumpus and some of the other ballers incorporating into their language or lingo these days. But it's a mirrored water line which identifies to us the true horizon. This is the true horizon as far as you can possibly see on a flat Earth. Ranty and Co. will try to tell you that this is all inferior miraging, so it's the air itself that is causing this reflection, this perfect beneath reflection, but it's not. It's the water itself. Beyond a certain point, we have much compression of distance, right? And we have certain lighting conditions, we have certain water conditions, we have certain acuteness of viewing angle, and this mirrored water layer always sets itself up. So when you identify the mirror line, you can say that this over the flat plane is the furthest we can see to the apparent horizon, where the sky meets the land. So yeah, you can even see it here with the clouds. This is the cloud above has been reflected below this mirror line. So it literally is a mirror. You know, why invoke reflecting air when you have water there that we know is reflective anyway? We know air can be reflective, but it's not the air itself that's been reflected, it's the water in the air, right? But the water in the air just blends in with the water and it all becomes reflective. So yeah, this is the key point here. And you know, that was long since dealt with anyway. I don't spend much time on these things, but these are all the things that you'd be kept revolving around, spinning around, you know, and not making any sort of further progress. But yeah, once we realize the limitations, Nathan's, John, quantum erasers limitations, yeah, ether, they won't even hear you out or hear anything said on ether. And well, as I say, when we look back into the history of how the ether got demolished, well, Einstein was a big character and a big part to play in it. Because Einstein gives us his photon as well, which is the basic fundamental component of light. We're told this virtual particle. It's all nonsense, but nonsense because it doesn't equate to reality only in a metaphorical sense, not in a literal sense. So when we re-establish what light is, which is visible light from the sun is an effect, it's not within the source itself. But then we can see that the duality of the dual wave particle theory of light is itself metaphor, telling us that light, as we experience it, is an interaction and reaction between source energies, wave energies, and well, water particulation everywhere. So, okay, I better go here. It's just getting too late. So once again, I should do a 24-hour marathon or something just to get through some of the stuff that I could get through. But it's all these basic things that we should have been through anyway and sort of moved on from, but we're being kept at it again and again. And look, well, as I say, this is about your journey here and nobody else's. So you decide where you're at in all of this. Okay, I'm gonna have to go here and yeah. Sorry for not making it back into chat now, and I should just try get one particular topic and stick to it. Make a point out of making a presentation for an hour or half an hour or something. Just absolutely stick to it. But for today, just ether again. The ether is back in the game. Baby, it never left, and now we think of ether, heart, earth, and that's that different connection being made. Soulmate, yeah. It's this external, internal relationship when we think about our souls ourselves, we're told that Adam was given a soul, or imbued with a soul in Genesis 2. Soul is not mentioned in Genesis 1. We note that soul is you, sol. Adam was made from the dust. The dust of what? Science tells us we're made from stardust. Everything that we see now around us, everything is attributed to life on Earth that comes from an exploding star. So once again, all metaphor, and we were meant to put the pieces together. So, oh yeah, so that the last question is who was pulled from who? Was Eve pulled from Adam, or was Adam pulled from Eve? And everything is reversed or inverted. Oh, look at that! Look, come on. So just as it's on the screen here, northern songs as well. But look, we have the apple cut in two, right? The apple core exposed, flat Earth, Fe core. Lennon, McCartney, Paul McCartney, Paul follows the Dodo, Janet, John Lennon, Christ-like figure. Beatles were bigger than Jesus. There we have G, big G, R-I, sun, H-R-I, sun, star, because sun is a star, R-I, star, because or star key. Same story. Anyway. Okay, sorry if I missed saying hello to anybody. Irving, sorry about it, I have to go now. So yeah, good to see you, bud. Jennifer, how you doing, Jennifer? Sorry I didn't get to interact more, even though I said I would interact more with the chat. But that's what happens when you sort of read the chat. Then you get engrossed in a question that was probably from much longer prior to when you're reading it anyway. So you sort of lose everybody. But it's a no worries, right? No harm, no foul. Copernicus thinker will get back to in a few hours if he gets around to making any actual points. Yeah, I can understand where you're coming from there, bud. Don't worry about that. Everything sort of connects in a greater sense as well. So if you're looking for someone to tell you something, what don't you know? What question are you looking to have answered? So you as an individual, yeah, none of it might make any sense to you, and that's fair enough, right? It's fair enough. Any point? What point do you want me to get to? I've already got to the main points. Aristarchus is revealed, right? The decapitated tree of life, the source of everything. Divided without, divided within. Aristarchus is responsible for the barrier above, all of the skylights. We live on the back of Aristarchus, the stump of Aristarchus, and it goes all the way to the heart of our matters. This is the same story that's been told throughout this greater construct that we find ourselves in, which goes back to 1598, 421 years ago this year. Easter Sunday, Ishtar Sunday, Aristarchus Sunday was April 21st this year, which is 421. I say that they changed the calendars around way back over 100 years ago for them to particularly coincide with this year, this date. The Earth as we know it is very young indeed, yeah. And Copernicus, thinker, the man you named your screen name after didn't exist. How about that? So maybe you don't exist. Maybe you do as well. So yeah, what points do you want to be made? Anyway, that's my usual way anyway. I generally don't make any points or too many points specifically, but I do address that, and I do appreciate what you're saying there as well. I did make a point for you actually. If you just tuned in, let me just go back on that again. There's a point for you, man. There's your flat Earth proof. There's your sunrise over water at eye level on a beach, right? Zoomed in. We identify the mirror water layer, right, as everything between this mirror line and this apparent water line. So it's going out in a flat sense over a flat plane up until this point. So that's a flat Earth proof in itself. All boulders must hold that under these conditions, this is the real horizon line, and it's at 3 miles away, and it's a firm, fast horizon, because everything beyond that is dropping away. And the sun, as it rises, appears to be rising from behind this 3 mile away waterline. So this is a bold killer in itself, but that's not good enough for you. But maybe because you didn't understand what I was getting at, but maybe because I didn't present it too clearly as well, as I'd already gone over it 3 years ago. But yeah, once we understand this new context for everything, and also understand that this mirror line goes all the way across the screen, it just only the sun provides the contrast. So these is what things disappear into as they go out far enough and lose resolution against the greater panorama. But yeah, that's okay. Don't worry about that. What this proves as well, well, not so much that it proves, what it leads us to consider is a watery sky and also a reflective surface. And indeed, that is the situation. Yeah. But other than that, there's no points to be made anywhere, man. You tell me anyone who's making a point these days. I'll tell you that. And as I said earlier on, I was looking in at another channel called The Phoenix, and it's taken anything away from the guys who were doing the chatting away, but they had the wrong context for everything. It's necessarily then they're out of kilter with their reasoning and conclusions. So yeah, if you're looking for context somewhere, well, you find it yourself. It's not up to me to give it to you. So, but anyway, that's probably from ages ago, and there's no one here anyway. I'm going to leave you now and say sorry to everybody if I didn't get back and deal with your queries or whatever, and I'll try better next time. I'll just sing one verse. All the money that I spend, I've spent in good company. And all the harm that I did, the rest was to none but me. Not for want of memory now I can't recall. So come to me the parting just. Good night, and joy be with you. Good night, friends. I love you, my Steve.